Chapter 241 Drop It. Michael's killing intent-filled voice reverberated the sea. Looking at their captain twitching in the air, due to lack of breathing air, not all of them but a few loyal pirates dropped their cutlasses in the hope of saving their captain from the blood-covered monster. Or he dies do. As he says. The words barely escaped the pirate captain's mouth. Soon, one by one, the pirates dropped their weapons. Quickly Marcella and the others rounded up the pirates away from their weapons. The bodies of pirates and crew members alike were lying on the deck in their own pool of blood. Most of the bodies belonged to Ross' crews because the pirates caught them off guard as well as killed a lot using cannon fire. While everyone was staring at Michael to see what he's going to do next, he threw the pirate captain to Ross. Your rules. He let Ross deal with the pirate captain and the rest of the pirates. Every single fiber in his body ached. If the fight continued, he would be forced to use arch energy, revealing his secret. Men, take everything we want from their ship. Ross put his cutlass on the pirate captain's throat before ordering his men. They all waited for Michael to cross the wooden plank first. Only after he crossed the wooden plank, the crew members moved to the pirate ship. On Ross' ship, everyone moved away from Michael's path. Many crew members were trembling at the sight of blood-covered Michael. Even Logan avoided direct eye contact with him. He was too exhausted to deal with everything else. Logan saw him sitting down on the floor. Where did Ross find him? H asked himself. In his 40 years of life, he had seen many great Spartans and gladiators fight, but he never saw someone as bloodthirsty as the young man. Even a Spartan or a gladiator could kill a maximum of 10 men at a time, but the young man killed almost 20 men single-handedly. H was indeed terrified, yet a sly grin appeared on his face, because he knew the young man would be a great asset to complete the mission. Eventually, after an hour, Ross' crew took everything they needed from the pirate ship. Ross, what are you gonna do with them? H asked. The pirates were tied around their wrists, including the pirate captain. You took everything, let us go. The pirate captain shamelessly spoke these words. Just an hour ago, he wanted to kill everyone and pillage the ship. Seriously, Marcella put her crossbow at the pirate captain's forehead. Let's kill these fuckers and dump their bodies into the ocean. Marcella's words made the pirate's heart skip a beat. Put them back on their ship. I had seen enough death for a day. Fuck. Almost every pirate on the deck cursed. Their mainsail was broken by Michael, so they wouldn't be able to sail the ship. Putting them back on their ship was equal to killing them. In this part of the ocean, there weren't many islands nearby, hence swimming wasn't an option, and getting rescued by another ship might not happen. The pirate captain was the only one who felt relieved by their decision. He was fortunate enough to get a communication stone from Captain Redbeard himself. While Marcella was leading them back to their ship, the pirate captain took a glance at the blood-covered monster. He felt extremely excited to inform everything he saw in him back to Redbeard. A person who could heal like him would be worth a whole lot of coins. Next time, he would come chasing the young man with an entire fleet of Redbeard. At that time, he would avenge his fallen pirates. He's gonna make me so rich. Taking a last glance at Michael, the pirate captain left Ross' ship. After a day and a half, the sun rose at the horizon, enabling everyone to see their destination, the undead island. From the distance, one wouldn't see the horror hiding in the island among the ocean of thick trees. That's the place. David. Logan let out a heavy breath. After seeing Michael's bloodthirsty look, Logan wasn't as talkative with Michael as before. Not only Logan but many on the ship kept their distance from Michael. This didn't irritate Michael as his current dress irritated him. After bathing in blood, he had to throw away the dress and wore a typical pirate robe. At least he found something black to wear. But even after changing his robes, he reeked in blood. Get ready, team, Ross ordered as every team member began to assemble on the deck. Ross handed over the helm to someone else. Soon, Maria came out of the captain's cabin wearing metal armor that looked too big on her. There wasn't a spot on her body that wasn't covered by metal. Now he realized what Ross was doing a day with all the armor they pillaged from the pirate ship. He put together many pieces of armor to create armor fitting to Maria. Although the silver armor would definitely slow down her movements, it would save her from getting bitten by netherils to an extent. Other than Maria, Jonah also wore a full plate and chainmail armor. Unlike Maria, it perfectly fitted him. Everyone else only wore leather armor, which would provide some protection without restricting their movements. Even Logan wore a mud-color vest-like armor, as well as arm bracers to protect himself. Our mission is simple: get to the center of the island and retrieve an artifact. Ross began to speak. Follow my lead. If you want to survive, do what I say when I say. Recently I heard another team might be hunting for the same thing as us. So we move as fast as we can. David, cover our backs. Logan, you're on the front with Marcella. Logan nodded, moving to the front. Jesse was standing on the left side of the group while Brownie was standing on the other side. The group was formed on a pentagon shape with H and Ross leading them. I'm not gonna lie, we will face undeads. Aim for their head. Finish them off quickly. After listening to Ross for another 10 minutes, the ship finally came to a halt. One by one, they jumped down on the shore, leaving the comfort of the ship. They were standing on an artistic sandy shore as coupled with the blue sea behind them painted a beautiful picture of a scene. A line of large thick trees stood a couple of meters away from them like loyal soldiers guarding the island. Even the dark rain forest had a charm to it. Well, camp when the sun goes down, H said in a low voice. All of them walked forward without breaking the pentagon formation. Michael wondered how they were going to keep the formation after entering the forest because just from the outside, the forest looked thicker than the Amazon forest itself. It would be near impossible to walk through the vegetation without breaking the formation. Since H and Ross were leading the group, they took out a machete to cut through the thick forest. The rainforest was far-reaching, thick, and ancient. Its canopy was competed for by oak, sycamore, birch, and many other trees unique to this world that left barely enough light through the canopy. There was no sound of an insect, bird, or reptile, no call of a human voice, only the steady rhythmical lap of the sea. The sound of the sea made everyone slightly shiver with fear for what's lying in the jungle. The heat of the sun pounded down on them as they gathered up the courage and kept moving. Silent tree limbs dropped from most trees, and a hodgepodge of flowers, which grew in abundance, enhanced the otherwise uniform backdrop. The deeper they walked into the forest, the less they heard the ocean. A hodgepodge of animal noises, which were caused by birds and vermin, reverberated through the air along with the fresh smell of the forest ground, and were accompanied by the occasional sounds of breaking twigs beneath the feet of larger animals. Bloody mosquitoes, Logan cursed, trying to swat the mosquitoes landing on him. I hate rainforests, Brownie spoke silently. Even Michael, who loved forests, had to curse this forest when he looked down to see the leeches on his boots. He never would be grateful for a pair of boots as felt now. As they were moving forward, suddenly Ross raised his hand, wordlessly telling them to halt their steps. Every single one of them looked around their environment vigilantly, expecting a surprise attack from someone or something. Michael closed his eyes for a moment to listen to any weird sounds around him. The more he concentrated, the more he could hear the sound of monkey chatter. If it was any other forest, a simple sound such as monkeys' chatter would have freaked them out, but in the undead island, the sound made them clutch their weapons tighter. Keek, keek, keek. The sound got louder and louder. They could tell they were being surrounded by probably a group of monkeys. They hoped the monkeys would not be undeads. Abruptly the sound completely stopped. They all had a look of confusion on their faces, but soon the confusion became vigilance as they saw red gemstone-like eyes glaring at them through the darkness of the forest above them. Those eyes above them glowed while the air soon became putrid, overwhelmingly putrid. Chapter 242. Meanwhile, back on Pentown, Diana was walking around her garden, watering the plants. Tending to the garden always soothed her soul. The snow covering the garden slowly melted in the sun's heat. The long winter was finally leaving as spring was around the corner to welcome them with beauty. There is my beautiful wife, a young but confident voice sounded in the garden. The voice instantly put a faint smile on Diana's comely face. Standing 6'3" tall, a cream-skinned man entered the garden with a gentle smile. He had a stoic feel about him. His dark brown eyes were small and sharp as swords' eyebrows on his angular face. The raven-black hair fluttered in the wind as he was walking. Just like Diana, who looked young as a girl in her late 20s, despite his real age, the man seemed to be in his early 30s. Even many youths never had toned arms, a broad torso, a well-defined waist, and toned long legs like him. He wore perfectly pressed masculine clothes. a long white winter cloth with gray wolf fur and finely made black trousers. He put the 2 sheaths containing his swords on one of the benches in the garden before embracing Diana and placing a gentle kiss on her rosy cheek. "Welcome home, Ethan. Geez, I missed you so much. Why didn't you come earlier? You could have spent some time with the kids." I wanted to Diane, but the peace talk between the dukes took longer than we all expected. Only she could see the exhaustion of battle behind his lively eyes. They had been married for so long that she could read his face like a book. "I'm sorry, Diane." His smile was replaced by an apologetic look. "For what?" "I know what happened while I was away. It almost stopped my heart." Diane, she could see the stoic manly wall he put around him slowly crumbling down. He was a husband long before he became the house lord, so even if he put up a wall to look stoic to others, he would show his vulnerable side only to Diana. "I'd never leave my family unprotected again, I promise." He squeezed her hands. She had seen the look on his face before when he fought against her brother to marry her. She smiled to ease his pain for not being there for her. "I'm fine, Ethan. The gods won't let anything happen to us. Your smile would always make everything better." The 2 of them made their way to the bench holding each other's hands. "Jacob, huh? I always had a bad feeling about that little fucker. What did my brother do to deserve such trash?" Ethan disappointedly shook his head. He was worried about his brother. Ever since he was little, his little brother always had his back. When they heard what Jacob did, his brother was shaken to the core. At least his little brother was blessed with a good obedient daughter to wipe off the shame Jacob brought on him. "I cannot thank Ghost enough for saving you and Sabi." The mere mention of the name Ghost brought waves in her soul. As a mother, she wanted nothing but to reunite with her son. Her heart ached every time she thinks about her son. She never slept ever since he met him. Every time she closed her eyes, she could hear his cries, and the images of her leaving the baby on the altar flashed in her mind. To this day, she could never forgive herself for being so helpless, so weak to be made to leave her baby in the middle of a forest. The only thing that stopped her from cultivating again was the seal inside her body. It would alert Skyhall the moment she starts cultivating again. Except for Imelda, the rest of the world was thinking that her cultivation came to an end when she was injured 10 years ago, but it was only a facade. Skyhall made sure the mother of the Dark Lord would never grow strong enough to challenge them or reveal anything about the Dark Lord. If it wasn't for Rowena's mentor, they would have killed her the moment she gave birth to the twins. Even though the Skyhall showed her what would happen to the world if the Dark Lord was left alive, her heart and mind never accepted that her son would become evil as they claimed. An evil person never would have saved Sabrina or healed Andrews, or put his life in danger to save a stranger like her. "Diane, are you all right?" He noticed the slight change in her expression. "The last time I heard, he was still in seclusion. I'll go to his place in person to thank him as soon as he came out of seclusion." "Take me there too," she quickly said. Automatically a smile appeared on her face thinking about meeting her son again. "I thought nowadays you hate traveling," he chuckled while pinching her cheek playfully. "No, I just hate boring places, my lord." As they were speaking, a guard in full plate armor entered the garden. The guard was not one of the house guards but a soldier from Ethan's army. "The Oracle is ready to meet you." Ethan almost forgot about the Oracle until the guard reminded him. He left the Oracle at the guest room before coming to meet Diana. The Oracle asked everyone to leave the room, so she could meditate in silence. "Diane, you need to see the Oracle, she's the real deal." If it wasn't for her, the peace talks between the dukes never would have happened. A tinge of anger emerged in her eyes. When Noah and Ghost were in her womb, she met an oracle who revealed that one of her sons is going to bring chaos to the world and then informed Skyhall. Hence, she didn't want to meet another oracle. "Who told you to bring an oracle here?" Ethan was taken aback by surprise. For a moment he saw the Diana he first met. This was the first time she had raised her voice after getting married to him. He was confused. Except for Imelda and Diana, no one knew anything about Skyhall, or what they did to Diana. Diana quickly realized what just happened. Taking a deep breath, she controlled the anger boiling inside her. "I just heard some bad stories about these fortune tellers and I don't trust them. That's all." One could hide the truth but not bury it. Suddenly a gentle voice reverberated in the garden. Every time the voice sounded like a piece of soothing music, calming Diana's anger in a blink of an eye. The guard stepped aside to reveal a woman in full orange robes. This azure-skinned woman had a warm feeling about her. She had a square face with a rounded jaw, a flat nose, narrow lips, and her crimson eyes were sparkling with patience and mystery. Her curly long black hair rested in a bun above her head. The golden nose stud and the piercing in her both ears added a certain charm to the woman's grace. She was blessed with the muscle of an athlete and the fat of a baby. She wasn't the most beautiful woman Diana had seen, but she was the most graceful woman. She was something robust and real. She wore Rudraksh bead mala around her neck while a red bindi occupied the center of her forehead. Oracle Ethan stood up to welcome her. The grace she radiated made Diana stand up unconsciously. I'm not an oracle but just a guide for those who are lost or searching for ways to fix your past mistakes. Diana felt like the woman was directly talking to her. The guard quickly ran to the lady with a chair to sit. Even the way she sat on the chair had grace to it. Oracle, meet my wife Diana. You have everything a woman could ask for, yet your heart is like an ocean, never calming for a moment, the lady calmly said, looking at Diana. Ethan and Diana seated themselves back on the bench. The guard took his leave after bowing towards them. Oracle, I don't understand. As far as Ethan was concerned, Diana had everything. If she wanted anything, she only needed to ask, and the entire Winston family would go to the edges of this world to bring what she asked. She does, the oracle said. Ethan couldn't help but look at both of their faces. His face had confusion written all over it. Diana, on the other hand, was lost in words. Unlike Ethan, Diana could make sense out of the lattice words. Gods wouldn't have created darkness if it was evil. The choices you made took out the darkness in your life. Hence the light in your life disappeared, as light cannot exist without darkness. Ethan was stunned to see the tears rolling out of Diana's eyes as water broke out of a dam. Her entire body was trembling. Dian, why are you crying? Oracle, what is happening here? Ethan wrapped his arms around his wife while pleading to the lady. Don't cry, my child. Fate can be such a cruel mistress. You were weak and helpless. You thought you were sacrificing the gift blessed upon you by the gods for the sake of this world and your family. Diana dropped to her knees at the lattice feet. Ethan was dumbstruck by the sight of his wife clutching the oracle's legs. He had never seen Diana cry like this as his heart started to pound against his chest. Seeing her wife like this, he could sit still. He also dropped to the ground, trying to console his wife. Dian, tell me, what's going on? He stuttered, yet Diana kept crying her eyes out. A single drop of poison is enough to poison a pot of milk. A single secret is enough to spoil the relationship between a husband and a wife. But know this, my child, the lady looked at Ethan. The world is an evil place and you are in the center of it. Anything you do without thinking it through will endanger everyone you love and care about. Chapter 243. Dian. Ethan clenched Diana's shoulders tight, forcing her to look him in the eyes. I can't, Diana stuttered. Realizing her wife was hiding something major from him, he felt a mix of anger, shock, and disbelief. She shook Diana by her shoulders. Yet no words escaped her mouth. If you know everything, you should know why I can't. Tell him the truth, she continuously sobbed. The lady only revealed a gentle smile. Let me tell you a story. 2 decades ago, there was a mother who was blessed with God's ultimate gifts. The lattice words turned Ethan's gaze away from Diana. Diana wanted to stop the lady from revealing the truth as she feared for her husband's life. But no words came out of her mouth. Something prevented her from speaking. The lady paused for a moment while Ethan tried to make sense out of her words. She wanted to scream that she's pregnant with twins standing on top of the world. That mother never thought a simple feeling as the feeling of her twins kicking her womb would make her so blissful. Becoming a mother to a beautiful angel was the proudest moment in her life. The mere thought of becoming a mother of twins made her the happiest woman in the world. Ethan listened to the oracle without uttering a word. Even when he was listening to the oracle, he never took his arms off of Diana's shoulders. The only thing she missed was her loving embrace of her husband. She was expecting her husband, but the one who came was a misguided mortal. Diana still struggled to stop the lady from revealing the truth. Except her entire body refused to move to her will. The misguided mortal showed the mother a vision, a glimpse of the future. What the mother saw shook her to the core. The mother refused to believe what she saw, but bad things happened to her family like the misguided mortal predicted. Death in the family, sudden storms, natural disasters, and many things brought nothing but death. They weren't enough to convince the mother her child is responsible for all the death until her husband almost lost his life. Just like the misguided mortal claimed, little by little, Ethan began to connect with the story. When her husband came home, she wanted to tell everything. However, a powerful organization of misguided mortals put a seal on her husband before taking her away, along with 2 of the woman's blood. The misguided mortals showed the woman more glimpses of the dark future awaiting the world and her family. The misguided mortals offered the woman 2 choices: give up her child or be killed along with her family as a punishment for bringing the darkness to the world. In the days following, the misguided mortals showed the woman the changes happening in the world. The woman didn't want to believe it, but everything seemed connected to her. The place she first made love before conceiving with the twins was destroyed by a meteor. The time she went to after she got pregnant was crumbled into pieces. And the one first told her she was pregnant died in a mysterious illness, and much more. Ethan didn't want to believe the woman in the oracle's story is his wife. He refused to believe her as he wanted this to be just a story, nothing more. When the day of her delivery came, all the natural disasters occurred at once, killing thousands of people all around the world. The beautiful twins in her hands didn't make her happier as she expected. Instead, she was afraid. Even after everything, the woman begged the misguided humans to let her raise the child to be someone else, but the misguided mortals had already started the prophecy they wanted to stop. They forced the mother to make the ultimate sacrifice, leaving her child at an altar in the forest she gave birth to. The tears she shed leaving her child was the final ingredient they needed to start the ritual. Regardless of her bodice stiffness, her eyes continued to pour out tears. The anger and sadness Diana felt when the lady paused talking couldn't be described by words. Just as Ethan was about to ask Diana about the oracle's words, his right hand glowed. No, Diana broke the invincible force that prevented her from stopping and speaking. She screamed, yet the voice was muffled by the lady. Ethan felt excruciating pain as his body began to tremble. Save. Save. Him. The words barely escaped Diana's mouth. The Sky Hall placed a seal in Ethan's body which would activate if he was to know about the existence of his other son, or what his wife went through the night she gave birth to Noah. It was a powerful seal that had its own consciousness. The oracle's words made Ethan suspect that he has another son, and it triggered the seal. Suddenly the lady opened her mouth, pointing her finger at the golden glowing on Ethan's right hand. Another light appeared out of the lattice hand as the light shot out at Ethan's hand. The moment the 2 lights clashed, the excruciating pain he felt instantly disappeared. Ethan! Diana screamed. She hugged Ethan using all of her strength. Diane, was it you? Embracing his wife as tight as he could, he asked. His mind believed that the mother in the oracle's story was his wife because it was obvious after seeing Diana's reaction. And what just happened, yet his dumb heart was refusing to believe it. He promised himself that he would protect his family no matter the cost, but now, he felt like he miserably failed to keep his family safe. Yes, Ethan's mind went black, getting hit by the truth. In a blink of an eye, the swords he left at one of the benches trembled before soaring through the air to him. His eyes turned blood red as the killing intent radiated from him, sent a chill running through Diana's spine. The lady spoke. This time her voice was gentle and calm, unlike before. The killing intent and the anger within Ethan quickly disappeared. Both of their emotions were also calmed by the lattice words. Ethan released Diana from his hug, turning his gaze again at the oracle. Where is my son? What ritual? The first question was asked by Ethan while Diana asked the latter. The misguided mortals believed the child's soul contained unimaginable power. They wanted to take it for themselves. To do that, they had to strip away the child's soul. Diana almost collapsed to the ground. Her body uncontrollably shivered while she felt an excruciating pain in her heart. However, the ritual didn't go as they planned, and the child's soul was split into 2 pieces. One part of the soul ended up in a desolate place void of any energy, while the other part of the soul remained in its body. My son, is he dead? For the first time in her life, she saw a trickle of tears roll out of Ethan's eyes. It showed her the pain he's feeling right now. That's the answer only the time could tell. The lady smiled, but Diana shook her head. I know my son is alive, I met him. Once again, Ethan was completely shocked by her words. Where? Where is my son? Ethan shook Diana for answers. Where is our son, Diane? Where is he? The shaky voice reverberated through the garden. Ghost. Ghost is our son. Tears burst out of her eyes as she collapsed on Ethan's chest. There was no expression on the lad's face. She just calmly stared at them. How do you know? I don't care what anyone says, I know he's our son. I'm his mother. For a few moments, only silence filled the garden. No one uttered a word. How are you going to prove it to him, my child? After a long pause, the lady asked, breaking their embrace. Ethan saw Diana struggling to answer the oracle's question. I don't know. But no matter what it takes, I will show him that he's my son. Proving and accepting are two different things, my child. The road ahead of you is filled with thorns. May the gods be with you, protecting from the corrupted ones. Just when Diana was about to ask for the lattice help against the sky hall, she turned into a golden light and disappeared into the sky, leaving them flabbergasted. Ethan could tell it was not teleportation or a spell, it was something else. Ethan and Diana never left the garden. The sun had fallen, yet they were still staring at the night sky without leaving the garden. Diana held his arms tightly. It took her a great effort to convince him not to do anything rash that would attract the Sky Hall's attention towards them. When Rowena was selected as the Holy Maiden of Sky Hall, Ethan felt extremely proud, but now, it felt like Rowena was kept as a prisoner in Sky Hall. Even if he's our son, he is Ethan. How are we gonna explain to him that we failed to protect him? It was me who failed to protect my son. I was too weak. After hearing the whole story from Diana, he didn't blame Diana or anyone else except Skyfall and himself for not being able to protect his family. Knowing that he could do nothing against the Skyfall, he felt so weak and helpless. When we were a happy family, our son grew up as an orphan. How many hardships would he have gone through? Why did this happen to us? How could our son be evil? Dark Lord? What does that even mean? Chapter 244. The sky was black tranquility married to the poetry of stars that filled the sky like pale corn into freshly turned ground. It was the softness that called the body and brain to rest, and let the heart go to its steady rhythm. Night came as a reward of sorts, a restfulness above to calm anyone's soul, except it couldn't calm Ethan's. The more Ethan thought about everything, the more questions emerged in his mind. Eventually, he ended up with more questions than answers. Diana's heart bled looking at the tears running out of Ethan's eyes. No matter how hard he tried, he was unable to stop the tears from forming in his eyes. How am I going to protect House Winston when I couldn't even protect my wife and son? I'll be all right, Ethan. No, it won't be, Diana. You were right, we cannot go to war with Sky Hall, at least not with our current strength. It took an immense amount of effort for Ethan to sit still, controlling his killing intent toward Sky Hall. Every single fiber in his body wanted him to fly to Sky Hall and kill the ones responsible for what happened to his family. However, years of leading the Winston family and the maturity he achieved made him think rationally rather than act on impulse. As the mysterious oracle said, if he did anything without thinking it through, it only put his loved ones in harm's way. First, we need to find a way to break the seal in your body. If you could cultivate again without alerting them, we'll be one step closer to saving our son. Ethan wiped the tears off of his face as an unwavering resolution to fix his mistakes appeared in his eyes. His biggest mistake was being so weak, and he decided to fix it once and for all. Rowena and Noah must not know about this, Diane. If they knew what the Sky Hall did to you and their brother, they would wage war against him without a second thought, especially Noah, he said, gently wiping off the tears away from his wife's face. Although he knew winning a war against Sky Hall is near to impossible, he had to look confident as a good husband and a leader should. Even if the odds were against him, he wouldn't forgive himself if he did nothing to save his son. Our son, he's staying in the Sunrise sect, right? Yeah, our son is the core disciple of the sect. One could see the pride in her eyes as clear as a day. She knew her son earned that title. Let's just go there. She let out a quick bark of laughter and disbelief. As much as she loved to see her son again, she didn't want to alert the Sky Hall, which might be watching her every move. We can form an alliance with the sect. The least we can do for our son is make his life better, and keep anyone from harming him. What do you say, Dian? Oh, go get ready. Her face brightened instantly like someone holding a candle in front of her face. Before he could remind her that it's night, and they should leave in the morning, she ran back into the house to get ready. The mountains around the sunrise sect looked like a majestic painting. They rose in snow-white brilliance, a silent invitation to good for the soul not to accept. Upon the rise of the sun, the forests covering the mountains were so snow-white. The forest seemed calm on the outside, but under the snow-blanketed canopy, a blood trail could be seen on the ground. One could follow the blood trail to see a man running for his life. He was breathing heavily, his clothes were partially burned as well as most of the skin on his back. Regardless of the wounds on his body, the man kept running. After running for an hour, he finally stopped running. Who is there? The man with the wounds stumbled onto a tree in exhaustion. He stared in the direction the voice came to see a man holding a spear walking from the darkness of the forest. Axel. Regardless of the wounds and blood on the man's body, he was immediately recognized by the man holding the spear. Finally, Axel let his body collapse, thinking that he's safe from it. Is that Axel? What happened to him? Are we under attack? Ari, what happened to Axel? Ari, the man who was dragging Axel to the camp, was swarmed by his fellow bandits. No one knew there's a bandit camp in this part of the forest. The ocean of trees, the thick canopy as well as the predators roaming around the forest prevented anyone from the Sunrise sect from finding out the whereabouts of their camp. Ever since a disciple was killed in the forest, the sect was hunting every single bandit hiding in the forests. The forest was endless, yet the size of the forest never stopped the sect from hunting the bandits. Ari dragged Axel through the knee-high snow to one of the huts. Ari, there were 3 bandits inside the hut. Unlike the bandits patrolling the area around the camp, these 3 bandits wore thick fur-covered winter clothes, covering every part of their bodies to keep their bodies warm. It indicated their higher status among the bandits. Put him here, one of the 3 bandits pointed at the table on the hut's center. The other 2 bandits quickly wiped off the maps, documents, and things lying on the table as Ari put Axel's unconscious body on the table. Open his mouth. Ari forced open Axel's mouth as one bandit poured a healing potion into his mouth. The healing potion was not as dark green or consistent as Michael's potion. This potion was watery, consistent with pale green color. Where's Captain Quinn? While the potion was slowly healing Axel's wounds, he asked the 3 lieutenants. He went to meet a client. Do you know what happened to him? Did he say anything? Ari shook his head. He collapsed before I could ask what happened, but isn't it obvious? His camp must have attacked, just like the others. The 3 lieutenants stared at each other in silence for a second before one of them said, when he woke up, ask him what happened, just in case. Oh, go and bolster our security. Bolster the security. Are you kidding me? We have to leave, now. The more camps they lost, the more tension rose among the bandits. Many started to rebel against the lieutenants, while some even fled the kingdom fearing for their lives. This camp was one of the few last camps remaining around the forests of the Sunrise sect. The only reason many bandits were still sticking around was Captain Quinn's promise to them. He said he would take them to the main camp in the forests of the royal land. Yet they were waiting to move for 2 months. Calm down, Ari. We can't be sure of what happened to him. Captain Quinn already sent a team to hunt it down. I'd bet they already killed it. He did. Yes. You know Captain Quinn, he would always put his men first before the bounty. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr thunderous roar echoed through the forest. Aerith's body became rigid as he felt a cold chill in his spine. He dropped the spear in his hand, losing all the courage in his heart. The lieutenant seemed no worse than him. He was shivering and mumbling something under his breath. The fear of death overwhelmed their senses. Soon the silent forest became chaotic. Ari could hear the screams of agony outside the camp. "No. I can't die," Ari mumbled in fear. At this moment, there was nothing more important to him than his own life. Therefore, he decided to escape, only to get stopped by the two lieutenants in the hut. "You can't leave. Go fight that thing. It's an order." "Fuck off." Ari shoved them away forcefully. Ari was stupid enough to stick around even after the sect started to hunt them down like prey, but he was not stupid enough to obey a suicidal order. He ran as fast as he could to the outside. The moment he stepped outside of the hut, his heart stopped looking at the embodiment of the death and carnage itself, Nightmare, the dragon of Sunrise sect. The camp huts and trees around the camp were reduced into nothing but charcoal. The waves of heat from the dragon fire melted the mini bandit's skin off. The dragon before Ari was huge with shiny crimson scales and 2 horns protruded out of its head. Where is Quinn? His bladder betrayed him when he heard the dragon speak. Yet the wetness around his crotch instantly disappeared due to the heat coming from the fire around him. Cao crimson-red fire that had a mix of violet streamed out of the dragon's mouth, turning the bandits trying to escape into ashes. At the moment, only the lieutenant's camp was not on fire. Ari wanted to run before the dragon's gaze could fall upon him, yet his body refused to move. He stood still in overwhelming fear. Everyone he knew is dead, burned alive. Their screams filled with agony now replaced by the sound of fire cracking the woods. Ah! The moment the dragon's red eyes fell on him, he screamed as loud as he could unconsciously. The last thing Ari saw before everything turned black was the dragon's gigantic claws approaching him. How could Michael be the Dark Lord without some awesome Dark Lord powers? Let's be patient, my dear readers. Your wait will be worth it. And oh, expect one more oracle, and that's it for oracles and future glimpses. Chapter 245. Nightmare ripped open the last remaining hut with his razor-sharp claws. Although Nightmare wasn't as tall as a full-grown dragon, he did stand nearly 9 feet tall. Oh my god! No. The 2 lieutenants stumbled backward in fear. Nightmare moved his head closer to the 2 lieutenants. The hot smoke coming out of his nostrils brushed past the 2 lieutenants. Like many other bandits, they peed themselves. They never thought they would see a dragon this much closer. The fire reflecting on its crimson-red scales made him more terrifying. Let's go for a ride. Nightmare's rage-filled growl almost made the 2 lieutenants faint. He swept the 2 bandits off the ground before flapping his red wings to take off. The wings sent a shock wave that was powerful enough to put out the fire around him. Nightmare flew higher and higher into the sky. Realizing how high they are in the sky, they stopped struggling under Nightmare's clutch. If they were to be put down by the dragon, they couldn't even imagine the output. Where are you taking us? Nightmare didn't answer as he continued to soar through the sky. After flying for another 10 minutes, Nightmare started to descend. The bandits expected the dragon to bring them to the sect, except the dragon brought them to the middle of the forest. Although they were flying for only 10 minutes, they crossed several kilometers. Everywhere the bandits turned, there was nothing but trees. The thick canopy barely let the light through. Hence their surroundings were dark and gloomier. The moment Nightmare released them, their instincts to escape kicked in as they tried to crawl away. However, an invisible force prevented them from moving any further. Soon, the force lifted them up in the air. The bandits hovered in the air, while Nightmare began to interrogate them. Tell me where Quinn is and I'll grant you a quick, painless death, or I'll slowly roast you 2 like chicken and eat you. Nightmare's body began to glow more and more, indicating the dragon's flame forming inside his body. He's in Royal Land meeting someone. That's all we know. Nightmare was slightly taken aback by surprise. He never expected the 2 lieutenants to break so easily. The bandits he interrogated before either tried to fight him and died or never answered him until Nightmare roasted them alive. Ever since Jack was found dead, he was hunting the bandits day and night. He blamed himself for not being there when Jack was murdered. The guilt drove Nightmare crazy. After decimating many bandits' camps in the forest around the sect, Nightmare finally found the leader of these bandits, Quinn. Considering they had no leads whatsoever in the murder of Jack, Nightmare targeted the bandit leader who's responsible for all the bandit camps around the sect. He wanted to find the murderer before Gaia comes back. Jack was an annoying little brother to her. The whole sect was afraid of telling Gaia about Jack's death. Including Nightmare, everyone knew she would go berserk. His death affected the entire sect more than anyone would imagine. Jack was one of the disciples who never left the sect, even when the sect was on the verge of closing. He was loyal to the core. Nightmare stared at the 2 bandits for a few seconds. The look in their eyes told Nightmare that they weren't lying. "Please let us go. Please," the bandits begged Nightmare to let them go. If it was before Jack's murder, Nightmare would have found some mercy in his heart, but after he saw Jack's body, he felt no mercy for kings like bandits. The more he grew, the more he understood the meaning of Ghost and Gaia's words. They always told him to be ruthless and unforgiving. After Jack's death, he realized why. There was someone in this world who was ruthless enough to kill a kind, loving person like Jack in cold blood. So he knew what this world would do to people like Ghost, Gaia, and him. No, Nightmare sent a puff of hot breath towards the flowing pirates. The bandits tried to wiggle, but the hot breath melted them in a blink of an eye. Even their bones falling onto the ground were partially melted by Nightmare's breath. He felt no pity for the bandits. As far as he was concerned, the sect would be safer with fewer or no bandits in the forests. With another flap, he took off into the sky. It was time for him to return to the sect. Except for a few black clouds of smoke coming out from the forests, the mountains of the Sunrise sect looked calm and beautiful. "Have we reached the sect yet, Felix?" Diana was sitting on seat edge of the carriage with Ethan by her side. "We will soon, my lady," the old man driving the carriage said with a chuckle. This was the 10th time she had asked the question. After asking the old man, she opened the window to see the view outside. What she saw outside mesmerized her and Ethan. The last days of winter always had a calming beauty to them. The roads were previously blanketed by snow, but now, there were more puddles along the road than snowbanks. The little sprouts coming out of the snow-covered trees seemed like little babies waving at them. The sound of birds chirping sounded louder than the wheels of the carriage itself. Perhaps charming was the name to the effect the birds provided for them. "Is it me, or does the carriage feel less bumpy?" Ethan asked. Even when he was traveling in Pentown, the carriage would be bumpier, but after they entered River Town, the ride was extremely comfortable and smoother. "It's the paved roads, my lord. The masons who paved Royal Land, the same masons paved these roads too." "Oh." Ethan was pleasantly surprised. Unlike Diana, he had little idea about the sect's current state of affairs. Diana did say the Sunrise sect was not as declined as before, but he never expected the sect could afford the masons of Royal Land. Wow. Wow indeed, Lord Winston. "My friend's niece recently got into the sect. She tried to get into the Morning Star first, but the teachers who came to oversee the selection rejected her. The little girl was pretty heartbroken. Every time Ethan travels with Felix, the old man would make his ears bleed with stories, gossip, and all sorts of things. Most of the time, Ethan would pretend to be cultivating, or just nod without paying any attention to the old man. However, now he was genuinely interested to hear everything about his son's sect. Couple of my buddies who often travel to the Sunrise sect recommended it to my friend. I don't know how, but he convinced her daughter somehow to apply for the sect, and now every time he sees my buddies, he would take them to free meals." "Why?" Ethan asked. The old man turned back for a moment, sensing the genuine curiosity in Ethan's voice. It made the talkative old man even more talkative. "You see, my lord, the girl was at the formation core stage when Morning Star rejected her. It wasn't a surprise, considering those people only take the best of the best, and the girl certainly isn't one. Formation core at age 20 is mediocre at best. However, after joining the Sunrise sect, she reached the body refining stage level 5 in just 3 months, and that's on par with some of the talented noble kids. Apparently, all the disciples in the sect are getting free pills and potions to help with their cultivation. I mean, many nobles are lining up in the sect to buy those things, yet the disciples getting them for free." The old man paused for a second and went on. "The sect has to thank Ghost for their change of fortune. I don't think another 5-star alchemist would be willing to give his pills and potions for free, even if they were his brothers and sisters of the same sect." His words about Michael put a smile on Ethan's face. "Have you seen him, Felix?" "No, my lord. But I heard great things about him. Do you want to hear it?" "Yes. I mean, it's to know more about figures such as him." Ethan quickly hid his jumpiness. Wanting to pour out the stories in him, the old man didn't notice anything weird about Ethan's curiosity. "Stop." Just as the old man was about to talk about Ghost, they heard a shout as the old man stopped the carriage quickly. Diana slightly put her head outside the window to see a young man in a full black uniform walking towards them. The young man's black dress kinda resembled the dress her son wore. Soon, the security carriages following Ethan's carriage came to halt as soldiers of the Winston family surrounded Ethan's carriage as they were trained. Yet in front of 30 guards in full armor, there was no fear in the young man's eyes. "What's all this?" the young man asked Felix, his voice neither arrogant nor afraid. Instead of letting Felix sort everything out with the young man, Ethan himself stepped out of the carriage. Only after seeing a core-strengthening level 8 cultivator, the young man's calm expression changed. "Kid, why did you stop us?" Ethan asked. "How may I address you, sir?" "It's Lord Winston of the Proud House Winston. We are going to meet with Sunrise Sect leader Claire," one of the guards answered the young man. "With all due respect, Lord Winston, the sect is closed to outsiders." Sect leader Claire and Nightmare's orders, closed? Why? Ethan asked with a confused face. He wondered what made them close the sect, as it was pretty unusual for a growing sect to close their doors on outsiders. "Recently one of our brothers was killed in the vicinity. Until we find who was responsible for such evil deed, the sect is closed. Roar. The young man stopped talking as the Winston soldiers immediately retrieved their weapons after hearing a thunderous roar. Even Ethan clenched the sword hilts on his waist when he heard the roar. A few seconds after the roar, a huge shadow cast down on them, darkening the area. "What the?" Ethan's jaw dropped as he looked up at the sky to see a dragon descending. "Dragon? Protect Lord Winston. Dragon attack. Holy gods." The guards immediately surrounded Ethan and the carriage with the swords in their hands. Felix the old man was as pale as a white paper looking at the dragon. When the dragon landed on the ground, Ethan saw its crimson-red eyes staring at everyone. "Stand down," the young man shouted at the guards before they could do something stupid like attacking a freaking dragon. "Who are these people?" The dragon's voice made the guards even more terrified. "You've grown, little dragon." Nightmare's vertical slit pupil became rounded when he heard a familiar voice. He stared at the carriage standing on his 2 legs. "Lady Diana." "Dien, go inside," Ethan ordered, but still, his wife stepped outside the carriage with a smile on her face. "Lady Diana." Everyone was stunned to see the dragon tilt its head looking at Lady Diana. Gently brushing off Ethan's hand, she walked forward with no fear in her heart. Michael's action will be resumed in the Chapter 246. The Winston family soldiers tried to stop Diana from walking towards the dragon, yet their efforts were in vain. Ethan didn't stop her, but followed her behind. Although the dragon's physique and innate ability would give the dragon an edge if they battled, he was confident enough in his strength to defeat the dragon if it tried to harm them. "Relax everyone, I know him." Diana waved off at the guards to lower their weapons. Taking a few more steps, she came closer to the point where Ethan could sense the heat radiating from the dragon's body. They both looked up. In Ethan's eyes, there was a mix of amazement and caution, while in Diana's eyes, there was nothing but kindness and warmth. She reached out as Nightmare gawked reluctantly for a moment before slowly lowering his head to graze her hand with his face. The soldiers were stunned to see Diana tame such a majestic, terrifying creature. "Good dragon." Diana gently stroked Nightmare's scaly head. Somehow her presence made him calm. "I guess you can go be on your way to the sect then." Realizing Nightmare and the woman know each other, the young man stepped aside from the paved road. Nightmare opened his eyes but kept his head in her hands. "Ghost is in seclusion, Lady Diana." "I know. We're here to see sect leader Claire." Finally, Nightmare took his head back from her hands. He stared at the 4 carriages standing behind Diana, as well as the core-strengthening man who Nightmare guessed Diana's husband for a few seconds. "This is my husband, Ethan Winston." "Ethan, meet Nightmare." "Pleasure to meet you, Lord Winston." "The pleasure is mine." Ethan was surprised by the dragon's behavior. Many would describe a dragon as ruthless, deadly, terrifying, and many other adjectives, but polite would not be one of those words. However, the dragon in front of him spoke in such a cultured manner. After being forced to sit in all the classes conducted by the elders, Nightmare shed some of the bad habits he picked from Gaia. For instance, giving respect to those who deserved it, and conduct in a respectful manner. For a couple of weeks, the disciples were terrified to sit with a dragon or to see him, but after a while, they treated him like one of them. But it didn't mean they weren't afraid of them, they just accepted to live with him. "Follow me." Nightmare took as the force of his wing flap pushed back many guards and made the horses even more terrified. It took them a few minutes to calm the horses before starting to follow the dragon. You conveniently forgot to mention he has a dragon, Dian. Then I wouldn't have seen the look on your face, she giggled. Looking at his wife being happy after a rough couple of days, he was glad he decided to come here. The paved road made following the dragon much easier. Even going up on the mountain never felt bumpy or difficult. Eventually, when they reached the flat land, they began to see more black uniformed disciples around the area. Some were playing in the snow, some sat under the trees, cultivating, some were carrying bags that looked heavy. Other than the disciples, it was the buildings and the construction sites that surprised Ethan the most. He could tell these buildings were built in dwarven architecture as the base and modified a little. Each building was surrounded by either a garden or garden with a fountain. Instead of cutting down all the trees, they built the buildings without destroying the trees around them, which was the real beauty of the sect. Regardless of the winter, he could see the construction works going on at full speed. Many disciples, including female disciples, were helping however they could. For a sect that was declining until recently, they're turning the tides pretty fast. After an exhausting day, Michael finally laid under a tree to rest. He looked up at the sky through the small gaps in the canopy. The sky was filled with dark rain clouds. The thunderclaps indicated the arrival of a heavy downspout. Rain was the last thing he wanted in this godforsaken rainforest. Others weren't so different from Michael. They too chose a tree to rest their bodies. A few meters away from them, broken money limbs, as well as monkey dead bodies could be seen. This was the third wave of the monkeys they fought even since they stepped into the forest. The undead monkeys were so weak and fragile, as they were more of an annoyance than a threat except for people like Jonah. Surprisingly, Ross' daughter Maria was trained in the arts of the spear as she defended herself well instead of relying on her father. Keek. Ah shit, here we go again. Michael heaved a sigh of exhaustion. Even if those monkeys bit him, he wouldn't turn into an undead, but he had to put on a show so the team members suspect him of something. Especially Marcella, who was always keeping an eye on him for some reason. After he massacred the pirates single-handedly, she became wary of him. The only silver lining of killing these monkeys was their colors. Never before Michael had seen colorful monkeys such as violet, pink, bright red, and green monkeys. Only if they stink less. These monkeys smelled so bad that he wanted to cover his nose in the middle of the fight. Soon the little monkeys surrounded them for the fourth wave of attack. Michael looked up at the tree he was resting under to see at least 10 colorful monkeys staring at him. Their skin was slowly peeling off from their bodies, but that never seemed to slow down the monkeys. To make the fight less exhausting, he pretended the monkeys were cricket balls and his Doombringer was the bat. Every time a monkey took a leap at him, he would swing the Doombringer, sending the monkeys flying into the trees. His swings contained enough force as the monkeys exploded when they hit the trees. Keek! An undead monkey jumped at Michael from the tree above, screaming as loud as it could. Its skin from the face peeled away while it was in the midair, revealing the skeleton of its face. Sixer. He swung the Doombringer at the monkey. The moment it came into contact with the monkey, the little creature's skull cracked open as the brain mattered splat all over his face. Fuck. Gross. Michael spat in disgust. He never thought the little fucker was so fragile. He ached. Keek. The horrible death of their fellow friend not at all slowed them down from leaping at Michael. He continued to swing his Doombringer. Many swings ended up hitting the monkeys, but still, some of the monkeys managed to escape the swings. Michael quickly shook his body as he picked up a rock from the ground. He smashed the rock into the purple monkey, while swinging the Doombringer in his other hand. The rock split open the monkey's head, killing it instantly. This time he closed his mouth, so none of the disgusting bits would end up in his mouth. Just like in the Netherlands, the black goo oozed out of the dead monkey's body. Marcella was standing on a branch. The higher vantage point gave her a perfect spot for killing the monkeys on the ground, but when the monkeys swarmed the tree she was standing on, she began to have a hard time. Michael thought since she was using a crossbow, she would have a hard time fighting in close combat. But when he saw Marcella taking out a dagger and stabbing the monkeys in their head, he was proved otherwise. The way she fought showed him that she's a well-trained person in both long and close-range combat. Let's move. Ross shouted. The monkeys kept coming at them. Ross knew soon they would be overwhelmed with superior numbers. The team quickly began to move deeper into the forest. David, Logan, hold them. H shouted at Michael and Logan. Go, go, go. Michael and Logan quickly moved towards the team. The two of them fought side by side to keep the monkeys from following the rest of the team. Some of them did manage to follow the team as the monkeys used the tree branches to travel while they were on the ground. Damn monkeys! Logan screamed as he kept swinging his sledgehammer. Coupled with his body strength, each time a monkey came into contact with the sledgehammer, the black ooze splattered across. Let's go! Michael shouted, hearing more and more screams. He covered Logan while he was retreating back into the forest. David! Go! I'll follow you. Since it wasn't the place nor the time to argue, Logan ran deeper into the forest, following the team's trail. After seeing David massacre a group of pirates single-handedly, he knew David is a better fighter and freak than him. Hence, he trusted David to take care of these annoying monkeys, even if their numbers were in the 60s. Michael turned back to see if they had all disappeared from his sight. He could count at least 50 monkeys surrounding him. They all weirdly targeted him. Time to wrap up. His lips slightly curved upwards as he put the Doombringer on the ground. He raised both his arms at the monkeys. Wind blast. Chapter 247. The force of the wind fired out from his hands blasted the monkeys in a blink of an eye. Many weak, fragile monkeys exploded into black mist before even hitting the trees. His smile turned into a disappointed look. He really wished he could get experience points from all these dead monkeys. Or at least some badass points. At least he wanted to reach core formation level 8 somehow before competing in the championship tournaments. Putting his thoughts aside, he looked around to see if there's any monkeys remaining, but there wasn't a single monkey in the surroundings. I wonder if Dalar will be able to control these netherals. He couldn't help asking this question to himself. If Dalar was able to control them, he would have an army of the dead under his command to do his bidding. Is everyone all right? Somewhere deeper in the forest, finally Ross and the group stopped running. Ross asked as he noticed their missing teammate. Where's David? I don't think that freak made it, Maria said. Everyone turned their gazes at Logan, as he was the last person to see David. How come? It'd take more than some undead monkeys to kill him, Logan said with utmost confidence, even though the overwhelming number of monkeys he saw before leaving David's side made him question the odds of his survival. We'll camp here for 2 hours, and if he's not here by then. Ross did not finish his sentence, but everyone knew the meaning of his words. Except for Marcella and Maria, the rest had gloomy expressions on their faces. Not because they were thinking David died, but because he was the strongest of them all, and this part of the forest was said to be the least dangerous. If they lost their strongest in this area, they couldn't even imagine what would happen in the center, the most dangerous place on the island. Those monkeys were annoying. They all freaked out when they heard a sudden voice. The direction the voice came was dark. They all stared at the darkness as slowly a figure merged from that darkness. David. Logan grinned, sighing inside. Did you kill them all? It was Jonah who asked Michael the question. Michael just shook his head. Of course not. There were so many I had to back off. Thank gods they didn't follow me. The overwhelming number of monkeys as well as the way he spoke made them believe him. They didn't want to believe he could kill all those undead monkeys. After all, he was just a normal human being like the rest of them. Weird. Normally undead won't stop until either they're dead, or their prey is. Marcella threw a doubtful glance at Michael. It was obvious she didn't believe a single word that came out of his mouth. If you have doubts, you better go and ask those monkeys. Michael couldn't care less about what she's thinking. After getting Ross to guide him to the artifact, he would show them his true powers. At that time, Marcella might end up as another victim of Lucifer. Humph! Marcella snickered before turning her back. Logan walked towards Michael while the others began to set up a temporary camp on the ground. After the long battle with the monkeys, they wanted to get some shut-eye, even if it's only for 2 hours. I knew those monkeys can't stop you. Yeah, you bet. The two of them fist bumped like best friends. It's your turn to watch, big guy. I need some shut-eye if I'm gonna fight another undead. Logan is already on the job, my friend, he said, placing his hand on the chest in a funny manner. While Logan was watching over them, Michael lied down under a gigantic tree with heart-shaped leaves. The roots created a hollow place on the ground that Michael used as the bed. The sky still looked menacing with all the dark clouds above them. If he was back in his sunrise sect home, he would have loved the thunderclaps because he loved sleeping during the heavy rain. The warmth of his bed, the sound of rain droplets hitting the roof, the smell of the ground, he loved those things. However, at this moment he wished it would not rain. The forest was bad as it is with all the leeches and undead. The last thing he wanted was heavy rain. "Hello human, are you there?" Just as he was about to close his eyes, he heard Gaia's voice in his head. "Yep," he whispered. "I sent those pirates a rescue ship with our little spiders. Good. I want them to spread rumors about me as far as they can. Where are you now?" "We are at the far north of the island. I can come to you if you need my help." Her voice sounded like she really wanted him to say yes. If she were to come to him, it would definitely complicate his plans. Therefore he couldn't say yes. However, he did have a task that she could help him with. "There's another team hunting for the same artifact as we are. Try to locate them and kill them before they could get their hands on the artifact." The glimpse of the future turned him more ruthless. Just his order to kill them without sparing their lives made Gaia realize this change. If it was before, she knew he would have told her to chase them away or stop them by giving them a small beating. "You sure you want me to kill them? I could just chase them away from the island. They came into this hive of undead searching for that artifact, so we can't expect them to back off unless you can do something that really scares the shit out of them more than the undeads themselves. You think you can pull something like that?" For a few moments, Michael heard no answer from Gaia. "Do what you want, just keep them from reaching the artifact before me." "Will do, just put one of those drone thingies into the interlinked space ring." Already done that. After casting the windblast to kill those monkeys, Michael refilled the APD and transferred the drones to Gaia's ring before coming to regroup with them. "Contact me when you're done with them. What's happening on your end?" "I'll tell you everything later. Now I need to get some sleep." "Is it raining out there?" "It must be since you're so desperate to sleep rather than talking to me." "Goodbye." Michael cut the connection. He would have continued to talk to her if Logan wasn't coming in his direction. He willed the system to turn off the earpiece before closing his eyes. Ever since he saw the future, he rarely slept. When he first came to this world with the system, he really thought this was going to be some fun-filled journey of reaching the top, crushing his enemies, and having everything he wished for, but now, he was forced into saving this world. Although he already decided to save this world by conquering it, he was not completely doing it for the goodness in his heart. He was doing it for himself. The world he saw was not suitable for an immortal such as himself in the future. How could he live in a world that turned into hell? If he wanted to live his life to the fullest, enjoying every second of it, he had to first save the world. Besides, after witnessing the future world, he definitely felt less guilty about killing people such as the other team who's hunting for the artifact. Wakey wakey, Michael slowly opened his eyes to see Logan patting his shoulders. It felt like he just closed his eyes, but the 2 hours went by like a flash. Letting out a short yawn, he stood up and brushed off the dust on his dress. The rest of the team seemed like they never slept. "Sleep well." Like a baby, Logan's brows arched up slightly. "Only you can sleep like a baby in a place like this. It's because you were protecting us, big guy." Michael patted Logan's back, chuckling. "Haha, very funny." The rest of the team gathered their things while Ross took a glance at the map once again. If he was correct, they were 8 hours walking distance from the river, where the recon team would be waiting for them with a boat. "If we go this way, we have a better chance meeting with Johnny," Maria whispered to Ross, pointing at a different path leading to the river than the one marked on Ross' map. "You saw those monkeys? If something happened to Johnny," her voice was mixed with anger and desperation to save her boyfriend. Ross stared between the map and his daughter. "It's not like this new path is less dangerous than this one," Ross convinced himself for the sake of his daughter. If he were to find Johnny first before he could reach the center, the better. But he knew he cannot let the team know that he's taking a detour for his daughter. Hence he decided to omit the itty-bitty information of him taking a detour. "Be at your best, people. We'll face deadlier undeads on our way to the river." Thankfully, Ross didn't waste time giving them any pep talks which would have bored the heck out of Michael. He wanted to get the artifact as soon as possible, so he could finally quench the thirst for curiosity. "Let's move." Chapter 248. Somewhere else in the Azer continent, Noah, Alicia, and Maisie were flying above the clouds. As usual, Norvin was comfortably lying on Noah's shoulder while munching on 100-years-old dragon fruit. Finally, we're getting promoted to actual guardians from trainees, Maisie said excitedly. Her big round eyes sparkled thinking about being a guardian, which would end all the power struggle between her family and their rivals. It's time they promoted us, but I still feel like we're just filling the shoes of that 4 guardians who got exiled because of this new freak roaming around calling himself Lucifer. I'd say we should thank him. Haven't you seen the drop in the crime rate? It's crazy what fear could do to petty criminals, Norvin replied to Alicia. The little girl Maisie looked up at Noah to hear his thoughts, but he remained silent. He couldn't cultivate peacefully in the last couple of days. Every time he closed his eyes to cultivate, he could hear Abel's voice. It had been almost 7 months since Abel disappeared. Although he didn't want to believe it, Noah had a feeling that Abel lost his life inside the Nether Realm. The guilt of failing to save his friend's life had become a thorn in his heart. Shut up, monkey. One day or another, an innocent person gonna up in that psychopath's crosshairs. The world will go to hell if everyone starts to play judge, jury, and the executioner. You're such a hypocrite. How many people have we killed so far? We were defending ourselves. We didn't go searching for people to kill or pass judgments on people. That's what King Courts and the Guardian Guild are for. If those scumbags were to go to the Guardian Guild or Kethin King's court with the complaint against us instead of trying to kill us, we would have gladly cooperated as we weren't guilty of anything. So you're saying unless it's defending ourselves, we aren't allowed to kill and seek justice with the King's Court or the Guardian Guild? Yes, Maisie tried not to get herself into the argument between Norvin and Alicia. In her mind, they were both right as she wouldn't be able to pick a side. However, the little girl did hate the idea of someone running around kidnapping, torturing, and killing people in the name of justice. Wow, Norvin and Alicia stopped arguing when they saw a majestic palace floating above the clouds. 12 majestic marble pillars held the triangular roof. The banner of the Guardian Guild fluttered in the wind along, radiating a noble aura around the palace. The flying angel, Noah mumbled under his breath. He had seen countless majestic structures made by various races, yet this was the most grandeurs of them all. He wondered how they made such a gigantic palace fly around. A few other figures could be seen flying into the palace at high speed. Wasting no time, Noah and his companions flew straight into the palace. The moment they crossed the 12 pillars, they were immediately teleported into a large spacious hall, where they saw Peyton and Zanali waiting for them. What happened? Noah noticed the gloominess on Zanali's face. The usual shine on the redhead's face was nowhere to be found. Aside from Zanali, Peyton also looked very serious. The Guardian Prophet is on her way here, Peyton whispered, although there were only a handful of people standing in the hall. Who's she? Some kind of fortune teller? Norvin tilted his head bewildered. Thop. Ouch! Alicia slapped the back of Norvin's head. Shut your mouth, damn monkey. She's someone who's extremely important to the guild. Apparently, the last time she came out of seclusion was 50 years ago to help the Guardians put an end to Zullo, the necromancer. If she's coming today, it must be something extremely important. Only Noah seemed to know who Zullo is, while the others had a confused look on their faces. They kept gawking at Noah and Peyton for either of them to explain, except they didn't utter a word. Soon, more and more Guardians arrived in the hall. Some were even at the soul refining stage. No matter how powerful one was, they all seated themselves on the ground, waiting for the Guardian Prophet to arrive. The Guardian Prophet has entered the flying angel. Suddenly a gentle voice echoed through the hall as the ground itself began to tremble. They all noticed the floor at the hall's very front rising to form a stage. Come on. Peyton gestured at them to follow her. They all followed Peyton to sit at the very first row in front of the stage. No one in the hall uttered a word. Even a pin-dropping sound could be heard crystal clear. Shh. As they were waiting for the prophet, a heavy wind appeared in the hall out of nowhere. The howling sound of the wind slowly turned into a soul-soothing melody as an orb of light emerged above the stage. Gradually the light disappeared, revealing a wrinkly old woman in ragged clothes. Her white hair was messy just like her brown robes. One would not believe she's such an important person of the Guardian Guild, as she looked no different than a beggar. but none dared to utter any words in her presence. A few seconds after her appearance, everyone's brows slightly arched up. No matter how hard they tried to sense her cultivation level, they were unable to see it. The old woman stared at the people sitting in front of her before raising her hand. Noah heard Norvin grumble as he himself felt a sharp pain in his hand. He looked at the place that was hurting to see blood flowing out of a cut from his right hand. The wound looked like someone cut him with a sharp blade. Every single one of them had the same cut on their hands. It was obvious the old woman was the one who cut them. They wondered why. The blood spilled from their hands flew above the old woman, forming a blood orb. Slowly the blood orb descended on the old woman's head. Many thought the blood would drench the old woman, but the blood was completely absorbed through the messy hair into her head. HHHHH. The moment the blood orb disappeared, the old woman screeched like a canary. Her cry made many guardians close their ears. Stay still. Just when some of the guardians tried to run towards the old woman, the same voice that announced the prophet's arrival appeared again. This time, the voice didn't sound as gentle as before. Followed by the old woman's screech, her pupils slowly moved back into her skull. In a couple of seconds, her eyes completely turned white. The Dark Lord has found his path, she spoke in such a horrific manner. Her voice was neither of a woman nor a human. The voice was so unearthly, nothing like Noah or anyone in the hall ever heard before. The guardians failed to kill the Dark Lord when he was just wandering without any powers of the Dark Lord. Soon he's going to get a power that will rival the powers of the gods themselves. His powers will begin to manifest. The whole building trembled as she spoke. The bright hall slowly started to grow darker and darker. Search and destroy the evil powers scattered around the world guardians. Every time the Dark Lord obtain one of these, his powers will grow by leaps and bounds. Her voice grew more and more animalistic. Accept your destiny and you'll be able to stop the Dark Lord, Lightbringer. Noah felt something happening inside him. He never experienced such a warm feeling. Although the old woman's words were common for everyone, he felt like they were directed at him. The light within you is much less powerful than the darkness inside the Dark Lord. You must find a way to kindle the light within you. Only then, you'll match the Dark Lord's power. Until now, Michael never received any powers that solely belonged to his future self, the Dark Lord. But the old woman's visions showed her the glimpse of the powers he's going to achieve soon. When the old woman's eyes turned normal, breathed heavily. You must stop him, she said in a normal voice, but it was filled with fear. The few glimpses of the Dark Lord's powers were enough to shake the old woman to the core. Her bloodline was guiding the guardians ever since the guild was found, and the most powerful foe she faced was the necromancer, Zillow, but Zillow's total power could not hold a torch to the few glimpses of the power she saw from the Dark Lord. She believed the words that came out of her mouth were not hers, but they belonged to the gods. But she never knew that the Dark Lord himself is a god in the making. Who is the Lightbringer? Can he really stop the Dark Lord? These were some of the questions that emerged in her mind. When she was disappearing into the light once again, she put aside all the doubts in her mind. To defeat evil, they had to believe in themselves. While teleporting herself away from the flying angel to her cave, she closed her eyes, concentrating on the blurred vision she saw before, the vision that freaked her out the most. Even after the gods left her body, that image alone stuck in her mind. It was extremely difficult for her to see the visions again, but she tried her hardest to make some sense out of those images. She tried till her nose bled. 3 heads. A shadow of 3 heads in a storm cloud above the sea was the last thing she saw before losing consciousness. Chapter 249. The team cut through the thick veins and branches towards the river. The canopy was already thick enough, but coupled with the dark clouds in the sky, they barely had enough light to see what's in front of them. I should have brewed the cat's eye potion, Michael reminded himself. His face had many tiny red spots courtesy of the mosquitoes in the forest. The whining sound of these blood-sucking insects proved to be more challenging than the annoying undead monkeys. Thud. Michael suddenly heard a thud sound like something heavy hitting the ground. He paid close attention to the front to see Jesse, the thief, lying on the ground. Hey, you alright? Brownie reached his hand out to help Jesse. Yeah, got stuck in a vein. He quickly got up with the help of Brownie. Stumbling and falling in a place like this was nothing out of the ordinary, therefore they continued to walk forward as nothing happened. Yet, Michael's brows creased. Weird Logan, who was walking beside him, was busy slapping the mosquitoes to pay attention to Michael's look on his face. Critch. Stop! Michael's face muscles tightened as he ordered them to stop. Did you hear that? Critch. Formation, Ross whispered as the fighters in the group such as Michael, Logan, H, and Marcella surrounded the weak to protect them. They stood still instead of moving. Critch. This time they heard the sound of twigs breaking more clearly. Michael felt like he was inside the Predator movie. The forest in the movie was not nearly as thick as this one. Everyone looked at their surroundings. All they could see was vegetation, nothing more. Critch. Critch. It was clearly the sound of something big stepping on the twigs. Marcella slowly raised her crossbow higher in the direction of the sound. They prepared themselves for another battle. Michael could tell something is about to jump out from the darkness. Doodum doodum dum dum, he played horror music inside his head for fun. Please be something big and less fast. The team would lose their mind if they heard Michael's wish. The Doombringer in his hand was not suitable to kill something that tiny and agile as the undead monkeys without using the lightning dash. If something emerged from the darkness big and slow, he would have an easier time killing it. Fuck! Marcella cursed as her eyes went wide in shock. The others swallowed, mouths full of saliva, looking at the creature standing on top of a branch. Finally, Michael turned his head and realized his wish had come true. The creature that was standing on the branch was an undead black panther. No one dared to close their noses despite the stench coming from the panther. The panther's skin wasn't coming off of its body as it was with the monkeys. It was evident that this panther has been turned into an undead recently, or even a couple of hours ago. If it wasn't for the stench and the lack of pupils, they wouldn't have assumed the panther to be an undead. Unlike those monkeys, it didn't mindlessly leap at them to attack, but jumped from branch to branch as it was studying their strengths and weaknesses. What's it doing? Logan whispered. Don't make any sudden movements, Ross whispered while holding his silver scimitar tightly. He also moved closer to Maria so he could protect her when the panther starts to attack them. Let's back away slowly, H whispered before slowly taking one step at a time. Growling. The panther growled as their bodies went stiff. Thud. Finally, the panther leaped down to the ground from the tree branch. Looking at the team, the panther bore its teeth menacingly. Come on, kitty kitty, Michael raised his Doombringer as the panther scratched the ground with its paws. Growling. Suddenly the panther leaped at them. Its drool splattered across the ground, permeating even more stench. Due to the lack of pupils, they were unable to guess its target. It looked like it was targeting Michael, but just when he was about to attack, the panther changed its target to Logan. Michael swung his Doombringer, but he missed it by an inch. The Doombringer brushed past the panther's head while it lunged at Logan. Fortunately, Logan had a quick reflex as he raised his sledgehammer to prevent the panther from taking a bit out of his neck. I don't have a clear shot, Marcella shouted, trying to get a good shot at the panther. Logan and the panther rolled on the ground. The panther was trying to bite him while Logan was trying to push away the big cat on him. Don't move, Michael yelled at Logan. He held the sledgehammer that stuck between the panther's jaw even tighter. Boom. This time Michael didn't miss. His Doombringer's blunt head struck the panther's rib cage. The panther went flying away from Logan. It then hit a large tree before falling down. The tree the panther hit trembled due to the force. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Marcella used the opportunity to shoot bolt after bolt at the panther. Although every single bolt hit the panther, none could penetrate the thick skull of the panther. Growling. The panther growled again. The Doombringer caved in the panther's rib cage. When it stood up, black fluid started to ooze out of the wound, yet it didn't slow down the panther's movements. With a forceful push to the ground, the panther leaped into the air. Everyone raised their weapons to defend themselves when they saw Michael also leaping higher into the air. Their jaws almost dropped to the ground in shock. Even Ross' eyes went wide. What the fuck? Logan's eyes looked like they were about to pop out from the sockets. His mind couldn't figure out how David could jump so high with that heavy weapon in his hand. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 700 badass points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 1,000 badass points, boom. In the midair, Michael and the panther clashed. Michael swung the Doombringer with all his strength. The Doombringer struck the panther's back, but it wasn't without a cost. Before the attack could sink in, the panther headbutted Michael in the chest. Everything happened so quickly, the team only saw the panther hitting the ground after getting struck by Doombringer and Michael flying into a tree before hitting the ground. Shit! Logan wanted to help David, but in a blink of an eye, the panther stood up with its spine sticking out of its back. It lunged at them. Fortunately, it was not as fast as before because of the broken spine. The APD quickly injected a healing potion into Michael's bloodstream, healing the wounds as well as easing his pain. Even after he was completely healed, he didn't stand up to join the fight. If he did otherwise, they would definitely suspect him more, as a normal human being would not be able to stand up after taking such a blow. Jumping into the air was already pushing his luck, but the 4,000 badass points were worth the risk. While lying on the ground pretending to be injured, he stared at the fight happening a couple of meters away from him. The more he watched the fight, the more he realized the threat within the team. On the other side, Logan was swinging his sledgehammer, while Marcella fired bolt after bolt at the panther. After seeing the endurance and the strength of its body, the others backed off from the fight, leaving Marcella and Logan to deal with the panther. If any of them tried to attack the panther with a sword, they knew they would be killed in a second. Experienced fighters such as H and Ross took an occasional slash at the panther. Their experience was evident to Michael. The two guys slashed at the muscles joints connecting limbs, further slowing down the panther. The more time went by, the worse the panther looked. Countless bolts sticking out of its body, and the black fluid was oozing out of the wounds. Since the panther's speed significantly slowed down thanks to Ross and H, Logan was able to land heavy hits on the panther. Ah! Michael noticed Logan letting out a battle cry. His muscles flexed out. Each muscle had perfect definition, especially his biceps that were bigger than many people's thighs. Finally, something interesting, Michael mumbled. He fixed his eyes on Logan, who's fighting more and more violently. It seemed like he entered a berserker mode. Thud. 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 The panther was getting pounded by Logan left and right. No matter how much black ooze spattered on his body, Logan did not slow down. He kept beating the black panther all over its body. Hit its head, idiot, Michael rolled his eyes. If Logan had landed those hits on the panther's head, its head would have split open by now, ending the fight. He wanted to rest until they finally killed the panther, but he had to intervene before the team got slaughtered by the new threat that only Michael knew about. Go for its head! Marcella screamed at Logan, looking at the panther's vulnerable state. Cut off its limbs. Ross shouted at H before dashing towards the panther. The two experienced fighters in the team worked together to cut its limbs. While Logan was going berserk on the paw nether, they slashed at its limbs as strong as they could. Growling, the panther growled when Ross and H cut off the 4 limbs. The two of them pushed their limit to move fast and cut off its limbs. Ah! Logan roared loudly before bringing down the sledgehammer onto the panther's head. The moment the sledgehammer collided with the panther's head, it cracked open the head like a coconut. The brain matter exploded into a black mist. Finally, the team was able to heave a sigh of relief looking at the panther stops moving. Chapter 250. Gradually Logan's flexed muscles went back into his body. He was breathing heavily when he saw David standing up. Apart from a few splashes of red blood and black goo on his robes, he looked perfectly thin in Logan's eyes. The same couldn't be said to Logan himself, as he wanted to stop fighting the urge to faint. Logan bent down, clenching his knees to support his body from falling down. The rest of the team was too spent to gawk at Michael in surprise. Keep your shit together, big guy. We have one more thing to take care of. Michael gave a short pat on Logan's shoulder before walking towards the rest of the group. On his way, Michael picked up a crossbow bolt from the ground. They all wondered, what's he doing, Bam? Their bodies again tensed up when they saw Michael lift Jesse by his neck and slam him against a tree. The tree trembled as leaves and twigs blasted away by the force. Marcella immediately raised her crossbow at Michael, while the others also had serious looks on their faces. What the hell are you doing? H shouted. Instead of answering, Michael just stared at the masked face of Jesse for a few moments. What? Jesse tried to speak, but words barely escaped through against Michael's clutch. Did anyone notice that the Black Panther never targeted Jesse or attacked him? They were all confused by Michael's question. In the heat of the battle, they never noticed anything weird. He stayed out of its target range, so what? Marcella growled, refusing to let Michael manhandle Jesse like this. She knew and trusted Jesse more than Michael, giving no answer to Marcella. He just ripped off Jesse's cloth covering his arm. The moment H and everyone saw Jesse's right forearm, they took a step back from him. Marcella's eyes went wide as her body jerked in shock. Jesse's forearm had a 2-inch diameter circle bite mark. The area around the mark was riddled with yellow and blue veins. It's nothing, Jesse mumbled. He was already infected when the battle started. That was why the Panther never targeted him. That was why he was stumbling on the way. The first thing that raised the suspicion on Jesse was when he stumbled down. If Jesse was here, it was obvious he's an expert thief. Otherwise, Ross or H wouldn't have hired him. A single misstep would cost a thief's life, hence they trained themselves to take each step with utmost care no matter where they are. For an expert thief like Jesse, falling down clumsily was pretty unusual. The next thing was when the team fought the Panther. Although it focused its attacks on him, Logan and Marcella, it never seemed to target Jesse. Besides, he also kept scratching his forearm instead of throwing the throwing knives hidden inside his cloak. How long? H asked, gently patting Michael's hand, wordlessly telling him to loosen his grip. Michael did loosen his grip but didn't let go. Grhh, only a menacing growl came out of Jesse's mouth. Jonah cautiously stepped towards Jesse, adjusting his glasses to examine the wound. Judging by the color around the wound, I'd say 3 hours. That's approximately the time we faced the undead monkeys, said Brownie. Thinking weak undead such as the monkeys managed to bite Jesse, he just shook his head in disappointment. If my guess is right, he will turn undead in 1 hour, he stuttered in fear. The reality of someone he knew will be undead in a matter of time freaked him out. Whatever he's here for, we have to do it without him. Michael's face was calm. There was no shock or fear on his face despite holding a soon-to-be undead in his hand. He spoke looking at H and Ross since this was their operation, and only they knew the real reason to bring a thief to this island. H just nodded, without stating the obvious. Sorry dude, any last words? Grara. Suit yourself, Pulch. Michael stabbed the crossbow bolt he was holding in the other hand through right between Jesse's eyes, killing him quickly and painlessly. Check yourselves, I'd hate for you to turn into an undead, H said, quickly hiding his concern from showing on his face. With the system on his side, Michael couldn't care less about losing a thief. It was indeed a pity for the team to lose one, but at the end of the day, it was expected. You cannot leave him like that, Maria protested against leaving Jesse's body. We don't have time to give him a proper burial. Ross sighed, but the others showed no concern for Jesse's body. After all, Jesse died and it was just the mortal shell. It's the least we can do for him. Undead or not, he was a human being. Let's move. H ignored the protest of this naive young girl. Michael followed H behind. Although he trusted Gaia to find and stop the other team from reaching the center, he still didn't want to waste any time doing chores for this stupid girl. If you don't, I will. The girl stomped the ground. She looked extremely stubborn as she began to walk towards Jesse's body. The team stared at Ross while H clenched his teeth in frustration. Not only H, but Michael also looked pissed. Unlike the rest of them, he needed to find the artifact the most. It was his real mission, not escorting them safely. Ever since they started the mission, Maria had been nothing but trouble. If she wasn't Ross' daughter, they would have personally kicked her off the ship. It's not a good idea to stay here any longer. The corpses might attract predators or even undeads, Jonah, the expert on undeads, warned them. He was already gawking around to see if there's any more undead creatures approaching them. Ross, H looked at Ross to knock some sense into his daughter. Maria, we're leaving. Ross tried to stop her, but she just swatted his hand before he could stop her. I said I will give him a proper burial he deserves. You kidding me? We have to go before anyone else ends up like him. Finally, Marcella said something that Michael approved of. This is not the time for stubbornness, Maria. Ross spoke in a grave voice. This is exactly the right time. How could you leave him like this, like he was some kind of animal? Would you leave if it was me? After this, the father and daughter began to argue. Michael was already annoyed at these two for delaying the mission. He paid no attention to the argument. All his attention was on his surroundings, but he could hear the argument heating up. While everyone's focus was on the father-daughter duo, he slipped behind a tree for cover. Fly, my little bird, he gently tossed the palm-sized drone into the air. The white drone transformed its surface into an army camouflage to blend with the forest. However, before the drone could fly deeper into the forest, he controlled it to fly around them, making a rustling noise. Something's coming. Michael quickly stepped out from the darkness of the tree. H shouted at the team as he had nothing to do with the noise. Zzzzhhhhhhhh. The noise immediately stopped the arguing. We're moving. This time everyone followed H, leaving Ross and Maria behind. They didn't think Ross would be dumb enough to stick around, burying Jesse. Digging a grave for Jesse at this moment was equal to digging 2 more graves for him and his daughter. You're coming with me. Ross grabbed Maria by her hand and started moving. She was still stupid enough to struggle, but this time, she couldn't escape Ross' hold. Michael followed them behind while the drone kept making noises by flying around them. Looking at the speed they were running, he wished he used the drone earlier, which would have saved them some time. They continued to run as fast as they could. Even after a couple of hours, they never dared to stop. Eventually, after running for so long, Michael heard the sound of water flowing. The river is closer, H reminded them. Human, we have a problem. Suddenly, he heard Gaia's voice. What she said slowed his pace of running. What is it? He whispered. It wasn't one team hunting for the artifact, it's 2. One group was already dead when I tracked them down. Where? The thickness of the trees suddenly declined as they stepped out of the forest to see a beautiful river. Near a river on the south, Gaia answered, but he already knew the answer. The shore was filled with almost 20 bodies. Their blood painted the golden sandy shore red. What happened here? The sunlight entered in abundance due to the lack of canopy above them. It reflected on the dead bodies and the broken ship parts floating on the river. The team cautiously took steps forward towards the dead bodies. Everyone was on their guard. He wished he sent 3 more drones so one would have surveyed this direction. The drone he sent unfortunately covered the forest quite some distance from this place. After slowly approaching the site, they came to the first dead body on the shore. It was of a middle-aged man. He wore a toga just like the 2 Southerners Michael met on Lars' ship. He wondered what a nobleman was doing in a dangerous place like this. Michael squatted down beside the dead body to study the wounds inflicted on the body. Gaia was right. He wasn't killed by an undead but a human. Looking at the clean cut across his throat, he could tell it was the handiwork of a human. No undead would kill with such precision, or leave the body untouched. They were killed by humans. Marcella came to the same conclusion as Michael. Chapter 251. Ross, you need to see this. A few meters away from Michael, Marcella called out for Ross. Underneath her feet, there was a body of a blue-robed youngster. Marcella's face had an unusual frown. Ross causality walked towards Marcella while constantly staring at the surroundings for any surprise attack. Michael closely stared at Ross' face for any expression. Just when he got close to Marcella, dark lines appeared on his forehead. It's Rowan from the distance, Michael's lip read Ross. Soon he saw the others walking towards Marcella, and having the same disturbed looks on their faces as Ross. It must be his team then, said Logan, his eyes squinting at the broken ship parts floating on the river. One by one, the team members began to look gloomy. Even with the ship, reaching the center would be a pain. What are we gonna do now? Brownie's voice already showed his reluctance to continue the mission. Then we go with the plan B, go through the forest. H immediately opened his mouth before anyone could ask Ross to back off from the mission. It seemed to Michael that H was more desperate to complete the mission than Ross himself. It's suicide. Ross, however, shook his head. They could reach the center through the forest far more quickly than traveling on the river. But it was the powerful undead army living in the forest that made them go with the river. I agree with Ross. A single panther almost killed us and the deep forest will have hundreds of them. Except for Jonah and H. Everyone nodded their heads. Michael, on the other hand, although he knew going into the forest might even threaten his life, He wasn't going to abandon the mission like the rest of them. The host should build a raft. Long time no hear, system. Despite him sitting in the middle of dead bodies, the system's voice put a smile on his face. I was already thinking that, he thought, looking at the wooden planks, bamboo trees in the forest as well as the ropes around the area. The team who killed Rowan's team was thorough. They not only killed them all but also destroyed the ship they built. Building a ship from scratch was far beyond what Michael could do at his current inventor trait. Even if he had the required level, he needed a blacksmith to complete the ship. Therefore, the best thing he could do was a raft, using the materials around him. While making a blueprint to build the raft in his mind, he controlled the drone to fly ahead, following the river. Shit! His mind played him the visuals being captured by the drone. The foxy smile from his face vanished instantly. It was replaced by a stern look. Crocodiles, undead, and alive crocodiles. He could count at least 50 full-grown crocodiles swarming the river ahead of them. What made him sweat a cold drop was some of the undead crocodiles were swimming against the river's current. In other words, they were coming towards them. Guys, we can build a raft, Michael almost shouted. He had no time to waste anymore. The other team hunting for the artifact was rushing enough. And now he had to deal with these crocs. Using arch energy to fight them might seem like a solution, but he had a feeling the stronger foes are at the temple where the artifact is. Besides, building 2 rafts would not take much time considering his inventor skills. All of their gazes instantly turned towards Michael. Of course, doubt and disbelief of what he just said were written all over their faces. We have all the necessary materials to build 2 of them. It won't be as comfy as a ship, but it will take us to the center. That of course if you still want to get the job done. You think you can build them? Jonah's voice contained a doubt, yet also a glimmer of hope just like those brown eyes behind his glasses. If you guys quit skulking around and help me, I can get the rafts on the water in an hour. Yet again, Michael peeked at the corner of his mind to see the crocs. They're the deadliest predators in the world for a reason. Michael couldn't help praising the crocodiles after seeing their speed. The river's current was pretty strong yet they moved so fast and swiftly against the current. We're in too deep to back off, Ross. I won't turn my back on Johnny. H and Maria tried to convince Ross to move forward with the mission as Michael expected. If it wasn't for the fact that the flying time to the center is almost 4 hours, he might have shown his true face. To save the precious 3 hours of cultivation power, Michael decided to stick with them. The more people he surrounds himself with, the less chance he would end up undead. Chow. David, what do you need from us? After taking a few long moments, Ross finally asked Michael. Anyone with 2 eyes or 1 eye could tell how reluctant Ross is. No one knew what's at stake other than Ross himself. Getting the artifact was the only way to save Giselle Kingdom's lead senator, who's the one holding the kingdom together. If he died, the whole kingdom would be thrown into chaos. The enemy kingdoms would wage war to take a piece of Giselle. Thousands of people would die while many would become slaves. The desperation to save his motherland forced Ross to go with this suicide plan. Maria Pieli. Not gonna happen, father. Yet again Maria stomped the ground, refusing to listen to Ross. She's stupid and stubborn as fuck. Her stubbornness truly surprised Michael. He had never seen such a stubborn and stupid girl before in his 2 lives. After looking at the number of crocodiles rushing towards them, it wouldn't surprise Michael if half the team lost their lives. Since Logan could prove to be a good subordinate, he might save him if the push comes to shove. The rafts won't protect us as a ship would. This is a suicide plan. We should go back. Marcella sounded extremely serious. Michael clenched his jaws as black lines appeared on his forehead. Go back and get nothing or follow me and get thrice the payment you've agreed. The moment H uttered these words, many in the team let out a surprising burst of chuckle. Their frowny faces showed a slight smile. A greedy smile except for Marcella. Even Marcella rubbed her chin, thinking about the coins. Logan's reaction was obvious as his eyes sparkled. Although Michael smiled to pretend like he was intrigued by H's offer, somewhat he couldn't completely believe H's words. You sly fox, you don't believe everyone will survive, Michael snickered inside. He didn't loathe or get mad at H though. It was a logical move considering the risk of moving forward. If most of them died, H wouldn't have to pay them. What made Michael wonder was whether H would double-cross the survivors or not. I don't know about you guys, but the payday is worth the risk. Following H. Logan was the first to step towards Michael to help. While Ross was trying to convince Maria to back off, the others agreed with H one by one. Whatcha need me to do? Logan asked. Get me as many bamboos as you can. Logan picked up a scimitar from one of the dead bodies before going into the forest. What about us? Brownie asked while Marcella and Jonah stood behind him. H was discussing something with Ross. Maria surprised Michael by digging graves for the dead bodies. Get the wooden planks floating on the river. Do it fast. Who knows what lingers around this forest? Michael started to collect things such as ropes to start building the rafts. After almost 50 minutes of hard work, Michael finally finished building the 2 rafts. It's not a ship, but they will get the job done. The 2 bamboo rafts didn't exactly look like a typical raft. Each raft contained 3 layers of green bamboo. Michael also tied wooden barrels with the raft to make them float better. Since he knew about the upcoming threat, he used the wooden planks as the walls to somewhat provide protection against the crocs. In simple words, each one was a raft with 3 walls. He knew the walls would be destroyed by the crocs in a few moments after meeting them, but those few moments could save a life. He knew that the more people he had to fight the undead, the better his chance to obtain the artifact. H. Logan, Jonah, Marcella on one raft. The rest of us will get on the other 1 inch. This meant Michael, Ross, Maria, and Brownie would be on the same raft. He kinda wished Logan to be on the same raft as he is, but he doubted the raft could take the big guy and his sledgehammer along with him and the Doombringer. Oh, go first. Michael walked towards the raft floating behind H.'s raft. When he jumped on the raft, it wobbled for a moment until he balanced himself. They're close. When he peeked at the visuals being captured by the drone, he noticed the crocs getting closer and closer. Although he still looked calm, he was pretty serious about the upcoming battle. Soon, one by one, the team jumped onto the raft. Sigh. Only after he saw everyone standing on the rafts without drowning in the river, he breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 252. Traveling on the raft against a calm wind seemed peaceful, almost making them forget where they were. H used the long bamboo stick as a paddle to move the raft faster, while on Michael's raft, Brownie used the bamboo paddle. You seem tense, Maria said, looking at Michael. He was surprised to see this stubborn, stupid girl noticing his inner emotions. Is it weird considering where we are going? He shrugged. He could have smiled, yet he showed no expression on his face. After getting a question as an answer, Maria frowned before sitting on the raft to relax her muscles. At the moment, Michael was standing behind the raft, in front of the back wall made of wooden planks. Except for Maria, no one turned back to notice what he was doing. He chose this place so he could concentrate on controlling the drone, which would let him know the whereabouts of the crocs. While Michael was looking at the footage being captured by the drone, out of nowhere an arrow shot straight at the drone. The drone flew chaotically above the river before finally falling into the water. But before it went down, Michael saw a humanoid figure on a boulder near the river. Is that an alpha? His brows furrowed. This was another difference he found in the netherals of the southern continent. Back in the northern continent, a netheral bite wouldn't turn a cultivator into a netheral. It was the exact opposite here. It was obviously the lack of arch energy in the people's bodies here. If Jesse was a cultivator and had arch energy running through his energy veins, he wouldn't have turned into a netheral or undead. As he learned recently, the alphas were stronger and intelligent undeads who possessed intellectual equal to a human. In other words, alphas were perfect killing machines. After the alpha undead shot down his drone, he had no way of knowing the crocs' whereabouts or how far the undeads from their current position were. Michael put the Doombringer on his shoulder, preparing himself for the upcoming battle. Guys, I feel like something's heading in our way. You might want to put your guard up, Michael warned everyone on the raft. For a few moments, Ross gawked at him doubtfully, but ultimately Ross nodded. For a few more minutes, he heard only the sound of the river's flow, the birds chirping as well as the creaking noises produced by the rafts. It was until he started to hear the ear-piercing scream, which was followed by growling noises of countless undeads. Watch out! Logan shouted from his raft. Michael peeked through the wall's holes to see either side of the river is getting swarmed by humanoid undeads and undead beasts. Graha! Jirarararararar. Ekeek. Various terrifying noises came from all around them. Move, move, move. H shouted as the first raft began to move faster. The undead standing on the shore swarmed into the river, hoping to catch them mindlessly only to get stormed by the river current. Many beast undeads drowned instantly. Fuck crocodiles. Yet again Logan warned them with a shout, but Michael and everyone on his raft could see the army of crocodiles swimming towards them with their jaws wide open. There's no way the host could get past those crocs without using your cultivation powers. Even the system couldn't stay silent looking at the crocs swarming the river ahead of them. He could use wind blast to blast the crocs away. Given the current situation, it seemed to be the only logical move. It would be nearly impossible for these rafts to go through the crocs. Probably while they were stuck with the crocs, the alpha might pick them off one by one with his bow. Whoosh! Brownie! Just when he was thinking about the alpha, an arrow went straight through Brownie's head. The blood spattered on Ross' face, who was standing relatively close to Brownie. Michael saw Brownie's lifeless body falling into the river. The arrow that killed Brown was extremely fast. In a blink of an eye, it took Brownie's life. Brownie didn't even see the arrow that took his life. He was completely clueless. Get down! Ross shouted as they all ducked down. Through the hole in the wall, Michael noticed a 6-foot humanoid figure standing on a boulder with a bow in his hand. There was no skin below his neck, while half of the skin had fallen off of his face. The messy patches of gray hair fluttered in the wind behind the figure. His horrifying figure sent a chill running through everyone's spines. An alpha undead. He heard Marcellus shout. Without Brownie paddling, the raft started to propel violently. Hang on. Ross cautiously crawled towards the paddle. Fortunately, Marcella was able to fire a couple of bolts. Her bolts made the alpha undead retrieve from the boulder to seek cover. However, none couldn't breathe a sigh of relief. The crocs were still coming on their way. Fuck it. Realizing there was no way of getting through them without the help of arch energy, Michael stood up to wind blast the crocs. Need some help. Suddenly he heard the sweet melodious voice of Gaia in his ear. He had no idea what she's doing here without tracking down the other team. Still, he was glad that she's here to help them. It was still too early to reveal the fact that he could use arch energy. Oh my god! Watch out! What is that? Everyone began to shout crazily, staring at the sky. He looked up at the sky to see a huge boulder flying towards the crocodiles. Boom! The boulder hit the crocs with tremendous force, crushing many crocs while the shock wave blasted the remaining crocs away. Looking at the shock wave coming in their direction, Logan paddled the rift to avoid hitting the boulder, while Ross shouted at them to hold on to something. Hold on to something. Fortunately, both the rafts had sidewalls to prevent them from falling into the wall. Still, when Maria was thrown into the wall, the crash sent the wall flying away. Logan's raft wasn't in a good shape either. Since Logan's raft was the first to receive the shockwave's wrath, they lost all the walls. Without giving a thought to what just happened, both Logan and Ross paddled the raft away from the boulder in the river a couple of yards before them. Whoosh! 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 The alpha undead rained down arrows while keeping up with their rafts. He was like an Olympic gold medalist runner on drugs merged with an Olympic archer. Despite the raft's speed, he was able to keep up with them. The remaining sidewall was able to prevent the majority of the arrows from hitting Michael's raft, but the same couldn't be said to Logan's raft, which had no walls to protect them. If it wasn't for Marcella firing back to mess with the alpha's accuracy, they would have surely lost another teammate, most probably Logan, since he was literally a huge target. Stop the alpha, Michael said to Gaia through the earpiece before the alpha could get lucky and kill one of them. Even Michael remained behind the wall because of the alpha undead's precision. He headshot Brownie, who was on a moving raft. Piece of cake as usual, she sounded confident. He was glad she's here. Otherwise he would have been forced to reveal his secret. Until he could see the artifact, he didn't want the others to know that he can use arch energy. Besides, he wanted to see what H or Ross planned to do when they finally reached the artifact. It was possible that either of them still holds an ace up their sleeves. Right at the moment, the alpha knocked up an arrow to fire, but before he could do that, another arrow came from the forest behind him. Michael saw the alpha turning his head, sensing Gaia's presence, but it was too late as the arrow went straight through the alpha's head. Just like Michael, everyone else, the others who saw the scene, were bewildered. First, a boulder came out of nowhere. And now the Alpha was killed by someone. The sudden change of events confused them. Who killed it? Someone's in the forest. Ross came to the correct conclusion. Yet he had no idea who was in the forest helping them. Plus, no matter how hard he thought, he couldn't find an answer to the question. How or what could have thrown the boulder with such force? Everyone except Michael was thinking the same thing. Even the Alpha's death couldn't stop the dumb Netherals from rushing into the river. Unlike the Alpha, they had no brain function whatsoever. Hence they ended up either drowning immediately or flooded by the river. They were not a threat, not at all. If they had the ship built by Rowan's team, or it wasn't for the Alpha and the crocodiles, this journey would have been a peaceful one and Brownie would have been still alive. He was a valuable team member as well as a great fighter. They needed all the fighters they could. Now they only had Logan, Ross, Michael, and Marcella to face an army of undeads guarding the temple. There are still some Alphas heading your way. Let me take care of them, Gaia said. Chapter 253. The rest of the journey was peaceful thanks to Gaia killing the Alphas before they could attack the rafts. Judging by the frown on Ross' face, Michael could tell that doubts are rising in Ross' heart. How long? Michael asked Ross. He held the paddle bamboo in one hand and the map in the other. For a few moments, he just studied the surroundings. If everything goes smooth, we'll reach the center in 3 hours, as far as he remembered. The river was running through the island's center, which meant they could reach the artifact sooner than later. The sooner he gets the artifact, the sooner he could return to dominate the southern continent, as well as meet his new demon subordinate. Are you hearing that? Maria asked after everyone started to hear a faint humming noise. It was very faint, yet one could hear it if focused enough. Gradually HS raft moved towards the shore as Ross paddled the raft to follow them to the shore. It's good to be on the land. Logan let out a heavy sigh of relief. Even Michael felt relieved to step out of the raft. Follow my lead. Ross took the lead into the dark forest. The forest looked ancient with giant trees and lush vegetation on the ground. Apart from the faint humming noise, only the croaking of the frogs, the gurgling croak of ravens as well as trees rustling could be heard. The air reeks. Logan twitched his nose. He was right, the air did reek of rotten flesh. Keep your guards up. It was not like they dropped their guards, yet they focused more on the surroundings after hearing Ross. Every single one of them took the next step with utmost caution. Even who seemed to be in the rush to get the artifact, walked slower. The lush forest made following Ross difficult. In the distance, they could hear the thunderclaps. Pushing the foliage away, Michael and Logan followed the team behind. Without uttering a single word, they kept walking. They kept walking as the faint humming noise began to sound louder and louder. Michael used his environmental scanning senses to scan for any undeads, yet he found nothing. It was surprisingly unusual. Although there were no undeads nearby, he couldn't shake the eerie feeling. Except for the humming noise, there was no sound, not even a chirp of a bird. After an hour of walking, the thick forest seemed to decline. They could see the light coming through the forest a few hundred meters ahead of them. "I'm getting closer." Michael's instincts told him that the artifact is nearby. He could vaguely feel a tremendous amount of energy coming from ahead of him. When they finally stepped out of the thick forest, they were welcomed by a huge surprise. Holy fuck! Logan's jaws dropped, just like the rest of them. What they saw was a pyramid, a miniature-sized pyramid surrounded by an army of undeads and trees. It was at least 50 feet tall and 30 feet wide. Instead of sandstones, this pyramid was built using a grayish stone that gave the pyramid a dark look. "What is this place?" Logan asked as his eyes widened in shock. The question should be, how do we reach the inside? Still, HS focus was on the artifact, not on the pyramid. He had the least surprised look on his face. Even Michael was stunned by this wonder, but not H. The system is sensing strong first energy fluctuations. First energy? Do you think I can use it through Energy Devourer? Since your body and soul endured the first energy before, you'll be able to use the first energy with no problem. Awesome, his face brightened. When he first sucked in the first energy, he was able to get from the body strengthening stage to the core formation stage in one go. Luckily, he was again presented with the first energy source. What is this artifact? He wondered. The artifact never ceased to amaze him. Look over there, Jonah pointed at the other side of the pyramid as they vaguely saw a rope bridge connecting to the pyramid's top from the cliff on the other side. If they walked carefully through the edge, they could reach the other side without alerting the undeads. Hey, is it me or do these undeads look weird? Logan looked down on the undeads from the cliff. They are hibernating, Jonah said, lifting his glasses up. Michael heard about this phenomenon from Delar. It was like when the Netherals had nothing to attack in the vicinity. They would enter into a state that could be compared to humans sleeping. Until they could sense prey, they would remain in this state. Hibernating? What does that mean? Logan scratched the back of his head. You can think of it as an undead version of sleeping. H quickly interfered before Jonah could start a lecture about undeads. Carefully looking at the undeads beneath them, they began to move towards the other side. The rope bridge looked ancient, missing many wooden steps, yet it was their best hope to reach the pyramid. Human, have you reached the rope bridge yet? Yet again he heard Gaia's voice. Oh, cover your backs. Michael let Logan and the team go first so he could talk to Gaia without them noticing. They didn't suspect him much as they had bigger things to worry about. While they were moving forward, he slowed down, putting some distance from them. Not yet, where are you? Keeping the other team from reaching the rope bridge. Since you've seen the army of undeads down there, you know what would happen if they smell blood in the air or any screams. Good call, we should not wake them up as long as we could, he whispered. How are you slowing them down? I may or may not have put some bloody flux into their meals. Her voice contained a sliver of devilishness. So you keep a bloody flux potion with you, huh? Of course I do, and you better watch yourself, human, she chuckled before cutting the connection. The bloody flux was a potion that would cause diarrhea. The fact she had a bloody flux potion with her didn't surprise Michael very much. Anyways, he was glad that her potion was able to slow down the other team. If they were affected by the bloody flux potion, he knew their combat skills would hit low. And even if they did try to fight them, which was very unlikely considering the hibernating undeads, Michael's team would have an easy time dealing with them. While they were walking on the edge, every single one of them did their best not to kick any pebbles down at the undeads. It was evident that if they woke one undead up, the whole army would wake up. It took them half an hour to reach the cliff on the other side. Except for Michael, none of them knew that the other team was hiding in the forest behind them. They are coming, Michael sensed the other team moving towards them with the help of the environmental scanning. Their movements were slow, probably due to the bloody flux. In a few minutes, Michael's team heard a voice coming from the forest. They quickly unsheathed their weapons. Stop one by one. The other team members walked out from the forest's darkness. They wore gray hooded robes covering every part of their body. Even their eyes were covered by a black transparent cloth. However, the one who walked out from the forest last didn't wear similar clothes. He just wore black armor protecting his torso and brown leather breeches with black boots. His short golden hair was messy and his face was pale. Johnny, the moment Maria saw the young man, she almost shouted. Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Maria leaped at the young man, embracing him like there's no tomorrow. Maria, the young man hugged her back. I found you. Maria buried her head into his chest, ignoring her father's gaze. Michael noticed the black lines appearing on Ross' forehead. Johnny lifted her face slowly. Just when he was about to lock his lips with hers, Ross opened his mouth. What are you doing here? I could ask the same. Johnny sounded like he was too weak to speak. They all noticed this, but only Michael knew the reason. He also felt pity for these guys because it would have been damn hard for them to disrobe to let whatever inside them out. Did you kill them? Ross asked. His voice may not have shown the killing intent, but his eyes did. Kill who? Father, Maria tried to butt in, yet Ross' gaze was fixed on Mariah's boyfriend. Johnny creased his brows, looking confused. We didn't kill anyone. Johnny shook his head. It was them who killed Rowan's team, yet Johnny said otherwise. Michael knew either Johnny's lying, which was probably the case, or the cloaked figures killed them without Johnny's knowledge. It's obvious you reached this place before us, but what are you still doing here without going into the temple? H asked. A hint of anger and embarrassment emerged in Johnny's eyes. We encountered a setback, that's all you need to know. Now are you going to keep interrogating me, or work together to enter the temple? H stared at Johnny for a few moments before nodding at the team to lower their weapons. "I have my eyes on you, kid," H said in a serious tone. Johnny did not react, but Maria gave H a death glare which H just ignored. After this temporary truce, all of their focus turned towards the rope bridge in front of them. Michael could feel the intense energy coming from the pyramid. Finally, this is coming an end. Chapter 254. H and Ross nodded at Johnny, wordlessly agreeing with him to stroll over the bridge without wasting any time. Michael walked over to the bridge to see the rope bridge's integrity. The bridge looked ancient, in which the deck of the bridge lied on two parallel load-bearing ropes that were anchored at either end. They had no towers or piers. Some of the wooden planks were missing while some looked rotten due to old age. If this was any other day, no one in the team would have agreed to walk this bridge, yet in this situation, they had to take the risk. Michael stood aside, deciding to let the others use the bridge first. He noticed Johnny giving a pat to his tummy before taking the steps towards the bridge. "Follow me," Johnny ordered his men to follow him. Although Johnny didn't seem like a leader figure in Michael's eyes, the cloaked figures did follow him behind, only to get stopped by H. "Stop. What now?" Johnny turned with his brows creased. Coupled with the bloody flux's effects, H's constant interference annoyed Johnny. "I'm not stupid to let your guys use the bridge first. Well, use the bridge one by one. Ross, you go next." After seeing the stern look on H's face, Johnny realized there's no point in arguing. Therefore, he just took his first step on the bridge. His first step caused the bridge to shake. Johnny quickly grabbed the two ropes on either side to balance himself as well as stop the bridge from shaking. One slow step at a time, Johnny moved forward. Even the thunderclaps from the distance were able to slightly shake this ancient rope bridge. Since his stomach was hurt by the bloody flux, he kinda limped towards the pyramid. The rope bridge may have anchored at two ends, but the wooden planks were only laid until the pyramid's top. After the pyramid, there were no wooden planks, just ropes. The bridge was either built on a rush or by an amateur, everyone thought. When Johnny reached the pyramid's top, a bright light appeared, producing a weird sound. The light soon enveloped Johnny. In a blink of an eye, Johnny disappeared from the bridge. When Johnny disappeared, one would expect Maria to panic, but the one who panicked was none other than Michael himself. "I'll go next." Michael was already standing near the bridge. Hence, before Ross could make a move, he stepped on the bridge. He was supposed to go last, except they saw him cut in the line. Not only Ross but every single one of them was shocked. Yet they were unable to shout or do anything to stop him. "Careful," Logan almost shouted when he saw the bridge violently shake. The bridge looked like it could barely take on a walking passenger. But David was running on the ancient bridge. They were afraid of him collapsing the bridge, or worse, waking up the undead army below them. Michael completely ignored their fears. Hatchak. The same blue light that enveloped Johnny appeared again to envelop Michael. The brightness made him close his eyes for a moment. The next moment, he felt light as a warmth feeling overwhelmed him. When he opened his eyes, he was standing in an empty hall. The walls and floor were made of some kind of dark navy blue stone. Everywhere he turned, he only saw blue walls. That was it. "Where's Ross?" Johnny asked, but Michael ignored him completely. "System, where's the artifact?" Scanning the area. The artifact is directly below the hall's center. Michael heaved a sigh of relief after hearing the system. At least, he was sure of the artifact's existence. Now he only needed to find a way to bring the artifact to the upper ground, or find a way to go below. "Hey." Johnny got mad seeing the new guy completely ignore him. "Where is it?" Michael looked around, walking towards the center. He was searching for some kind of mechanism like in the games to activate something. "Welcome, Lord Lucifer." The moment he reached the center, the ground lit up. He was standing on a gigantic magical rune that started to rotate. Various magical symbols appeared from the thin air. They all floated around Michael. What's happening?" Johnny was staring at the ground as well as the floating symbols with a bewildered face. "Lucifer." Michael's jaw slightly dropped, recalling how the pyramid called him. It was a robotic voice, yet it sounded utmost respectful when it spoke his name. Is this place might be another safe hold of the Order of the Death? He questioned himself while staring at the rune below him. He waited for something to happen, completely ignoring Johnny or the cloaked figure who just appeared in the hall. Holy gods! Johnny saw the cloaked figure dropping to the ground, worshipping the flying symbols. After the cloaked figure appeared, someone from Ross' team or Ross himself was supposed to appear. Yet the one who entered the hall was another cloaked figure. You idiots! The moment the cloaked figure saw Michael standing on the runic circle, he shouted at Johnny and the one who was worshipping the glowing runes. Creak! Johnny was about to take a step forward when the entire hall trembled. Soon afterward, a long tube containing a pitch-black orb on top emerged from the ground before Michael. Stop him! Yet again the cloaked figure screamed as his voice was full of panic rather than anger. Is this the artifact? Michael felt an immense amount of pressure being radiated from the orb in front of him. The orb was neither too big nor too small. Rather, it was the size of any typical glass orbs used by oracles or fortune tellers. Energy devourer activated. Warning: too much first energy. Warning. Host should immediately enter into a hibernation state. Energy devourer reactivated. Does the host wish to unlock the artifact? His mind was filled with warning sounds, yet it couldn't make Michael back off from getting the artifact. Yes, Johnny and the two cloaked figures tried to reach Michael, except an invisible force stopped them from doing so. We cannot let him take that, the cloaked figure who previously worshipped the runes shouted. The other cloaked figure turned back to see Ross appear. Use it. Johnny saw the cloaked figure who appeared second taking out a red brick with silver wires coiled around it. Johnny immediately recognized it. The red brick was a powerful explosive used by the Church of Modin. Wait, Johnny tried to stop, but the cloaked figure was swift. He placed the brick as close as possible to Michael, fiddling with the wires coiled around the brick for a bit. Run! The cloaked figures screamed before running as fast as they could from the red brick. Since Johnny knew about the explosive brick, he too ran behind them to the hall's far corner. Fortunately, the light teleported everyone to the far corner, so Ross never had to run. Staring at the glowing runes and the trio running away, Ross had too many questions in his mind. The red brick began to vibrate while its surface emitted a cloud of black smoke. In a blink of an eye, the cloud of black smoke transformed into a red-hot flame. Boom! The red brick exploded with an immense amount of force. The explosion created a bright light that made everyone close their eyes. The entire hall trembled as stone pieces from the ceiling crumbled down on them. When they opened their eyes, they saw the glowing runes flicker before completely disappearing from the hall. The artifact! The two cloaked figures shouted in joy seeing the black orb rolling on the ground where Michael was standing a moment ago. The cloaked figures completely ignored the body lying on the ground a few meters away from the orb. It was Michael. He laid on the ground face down. Puffs of smoke kept emerging from his charred clothes, as well as some of his body parts. Johnny Ross turned back and saw his daughter appear. Pulch! Pulch! While his gaze was on Maria, he heard a familiar sound appear from the other side. He would recognize this sound in his sleep, the sound of a blade piercing a body. He immediately turned back to see the two cloaked figures lying on the ground, blood gushing out from their back. Standing beside their bodies, Johnny picked up the orb on the ground. He held the orb in one hand while a bloody dagger in his other hand. It's mine. Ross saw an evil grin appear on Johnny's pale face. Although Ross had a bad feeling about Johnny, he never imagined him backstab two people in cold blood. When Johnny turned his murderous glance at Maria, a chill ran through Ross' spine. He quickly stepped in front of Maria, shielding her with his body. Considering Ross had little to no idea about Johnny's real combat ability or the artifact's power, he feared for his daughter's life. Stay back, Ross said in a grave voice. The last thing he wanted was his daughter to become collateral damage in the fight between him and Johnny. While he was shielding his daughter, H and the others appeared in the hall one by one. Seeing the three dead bodies, H immediately unsheathed his sword. Except for the remaining cloaked figures in the hall, everyone raised their weapon at Johnny. What happened here? Who killed them? Finally, one of the cloaked figures unsheathed his dagger. Because Johnny was standing so besides the dead bodies, they naturally suspected Johnny, and they were right. Chapter 255 is that? David? Logan stuttered, staring at the body a couple of meters away from Johnny. His muscles went rigid in shock. He never thought David would die while Jonah, who had no knack for the battle, is alive. What happened before they arrived here was still a mystery to Logan, but he was sure that Johnny or that two cloaked figures could have killed David, unless they had used some crooked means. They tried to take what's mine, so I killed them, Johnny nonchalantly said while fiddling with the orb in his hand. He tried to figure out a way to activate the orb. You murderer. After hearing these words from Johnny, the cloaked figures lost their composure as they rushed at Johnny with no hesitation. At the same time they moved, Ross felt a gust of wind passing against his back. Pulch, 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 pulch. Everyone saw four heads rolling on the floor as the headless bodies walked around clumsily, spraying blood all over the place before falling to the ground. The beheadings happened so quickly. None of them clearly saw the killer during the killings. They realized who killed them only after the four heads left their bodies. Maria. This was the first time Logan saw the terrified face of Ross. When they saw the bloody spear and the blood-splattered white clothes of her terrified them, because they never imagined she possessed such a deadly side. Even her own father never had a clue about her real skills. Quit playing with it, Johnny, Maria ordered Johnny. Her usual sweet gentle voice was nowhere to be seen, as she sounded more like a battle-hardened villainess. On the contrary, Johnny's attitude took a 180 turn. He immediately knelt down, lowering his head to avoid eye contact with Maria. He held out the orb towards Maria like he was giving an offering to a goddess. The sudden change of events completely stunned everyone standing in the hall. Maria, Ross called out to Maria, but his voice was suppressed by various emotions. I'll deal with you all in a sec, she said, taking the orb from Johnny's hand. When she looked at Ross, he could no longer see the little girl he knew. The girl in front of him was a completely different person. There was no love or kindness in her eyes, just anger and killing intent. Ignoring Ross' call, she walked towards Michael, whose body was still smoking. The team stood there watching Maria giving a couple of kicks to David's dead body. Pity, I wanted to kill you with my spear. After kicking Michael's body, she walked away from him. Johnny didn't stand up even after giving the orb. He just knelt down on the ground until she could tell him otherwise. Creak. She ripped off Johnny's shirt, yet there was no reaction from him at all. Now I assume you all want an explanation. Maria didn't even look at Ross or anyone but began to clean the blood from the artifact using Johnny's shirt. She then put the orb in her satchel hanging on her waist. You're all gonna die anyway, so it doesn't hurt to tell you. Ross, although the skills she displayed could make her on par with a highly trained Spartan or a gladiator, H still believed he could defeat her with the help of the team. He knew that Marcella attacked her from a distance, and he and Logan flanking her from either side would definitely lead the way to beat Maria. Johnny was a variable, but H believed Ross would take him down if push comes to shove. But first, even if Ross didn't want to fight with them, H wanted Ross to stay out of their way when they fought Maria. If he tried to protect his daughter again, this fight would get complicated or simply result in H's defeat. I need to know what she has to tell. Ross slightly raised his hand, stopping H from doing anything. It's simple actually. Giselle Kingdom took the one thing that meant everything to me. So I'm gonna destroy it and kill all those senator scumbags with this. She tapped the satchel. Her murderous grin showed them that she's very serious about this plan. It was my fault, Maria, said Ross. His eyes were full of regret. Anyone could tell he's telling the truth. That's why you're gonna die too. You always put your duties to the kingdom first. That was why you brought an undead to our home. Her murderous voice echoed through the empty halls. After they heard her, they gawked at Ross in disbelief. It was Ross' greatest regret. To the outside world, Ross' wife died of an unknown disease, except she wasn't. It was Ross who killed her after the undead he brought home bit her. In the southern continent, it was strictly forbidden for any kingdom to bring undeads to the mainland from the undead island. All the senates and a few kings in the continent took the decisions together. Nonetheless, 5 years ago, the Senate and the scholars of Giselle conducted a secret operation to bring an undead from the island for experiments. After leading the mission with Marcella, Ross caught an undead alive. Since they didn't go too deep into the forest, the operation wasn't as dangerous as this one. But the operation wasn't without losses either. Ross brought 12 men with him and returned with 7. If the safe house they decided to use hadn't caught on fire, the operation would have ended with only 7 casualties. Due to the complications and the Senate's trust in Ross, they put the undead in the cellar below Ross' home. Since it was supposed to be one day, Ross reluctantly agreed to the plan. At that time, he never thought his wife would go to the cellar to pick up a wine bottle for him. To this day, Ross had no idea how the undead managed to break out of its cage. Only Marcel, Maria, and himself knew what really happened to Ross' wife. No matter how hard Ross tried, he couldn't get the blood of his own wife off his hands. Every time he saw Maria, he saw his wife. The guilt ate his soul itself. A while later, he couldn't take it anymore as he sent Maria to a sect far away from Giselle. Yet again, he never thought she would turn into completely a different person. "You're right to blame me, but you're not a murdered, Maria." "You kidding me? I just killed these people," she devilishly chuckled, pointing her finger at the headless bodies in the hall. "And don't act like you know me. You were never there for me and my mother. You failed as a father and a husband. You're an utter failure. Who would bring an undead to their own home? And even when we started this journey, if you were a good father, no matter how stubborn your daughter was, you would have sent her away. Even then, you put your mission to serve Giselle first." Her words were spot on. He was too focused on saving his kingdom rather than his daughter. The scholars and Senate were absolutely sure that they could control the undead army with this artifact. That was why he risked his life to come here. If they could control this undead army, no kingdom would stand on Giselle's path or dare to invade them. The Alphas were an example of the artifact's power to control the undead. "Since no man came to save me or my mother, I learned to protect myself and to destroy those who harmed me. I'd bet someone would kill the Senate for me and pay millions of gold for this artifact." "Maria, this is not you," Ross' voice broke in overwhelming regret. He tried to knock some sense into Maria. "This is the new me. That lovey-dovey stupid girl thing was just an act to fool you. And it seems it can fool anyone. I mean, you have no idea how easily you can manipulate men putting up an act. Plus, you're all fools, so it was much easier to fool you." Seeing the young girl laughing at them made everyone feel embarrassed and mad. Even H, who had decades of dealing with criminals and battle experience, failed to see her true face. "But I got to give it to you guys. You've done a great job escorting me here. I never thought getting here would be this easy. I guess those Alphas are just overrated. If this was a better circumstance, they would gladly agree with her because they did see only one Alpha. And you, my slave, are ridiculously underrated. I cannot wait to hear how you managed to throw a boulder that size. Was it you who ordered to kill Rowan's team and destroy the ship?" H suddenly asked before Maria could get an answer from Johnny. "Why would I do that? I'm not stupid to destroy my safe ride. I don't know who, might be someone else with the grudge against Giselle. Now enough talking, let's get to the fun part. Killing you all." She licked the spear's blade. "I didn't, master." Suddenly, her menacing eyes turned at Johnny, who spoke without lifting his head up. "What, you didn't?" "Throwing the boulder, master." "It wasn't me." She creased her brows. Destroying the ship was a logical move for anyone with a grudge against Giselle, and there were countless people who fell into that category. However, she couldn't think of a person who would help them get to the artifact. "Why don't you ask me?" Maria felt a chill running through her spine when she heard an unearthly voice coming from behind. Chapter 256. He's moving. Jonah's face turned pale. He stuttered, pointing at Michael's body. Everyone, including Johnny and Maria, turned back to see Michael's charred body slowly starting to float from the ground. They couldn't believe their own eyes. "What in the hell?" Maria took a step back due to the subconscious fear in her mind. Visible to the naked eye, his burnt skin on the arm, neck, and face healed. His body slowly rose up in the air. The black eyes soon transformed into crimson-red eyes. They were staring at him in utter shock. Jonah's body shivered like he was standing outside naked in the wintertime. His transformation did not stop with crimson-red eyes, but the burnt clothes were slowly vanishing into thin air, while pieces of black armor started to cover his body from toe to neck. The armor looked like a breed between leather and metal. Up to his neck, no place on his body was left alone. The armor covered every inch of it. This was the first time Michael wore Lucifer armor without the cloak and mask. Logan was the tallest one in the group, who stood at 6 feet 7 inches. Yet the transformation made Michael an inch taller than Logan himself. After the armor was completely set on his body, They saw dark smoke being radiated from his body. Soon afterward, his eyes ignited with dark red fire. These people were somewhat lucky to witness the Dark Lord's first evolution. It can't be. You were dead, Maria stuttered in fear. Not only her but everyone began to fear him because of the fear toxin in the air. Even if there wasn't any fear toxin in the air, they would have reacted the same way. They had never seen someone fly or heal this fast in the southern continent. It was clear as a day that he's using magic, except they had no idea how. Don't! When Maria saw him move forward towards her in the air, she shouted, taking out the orb from her satchel. She applied pressure to the orb as it began to produce creaking sounds. "I'll destroy it," she threatened Michael with the artifact. "What makes you think I care?" He just raised his finger. The next moment, a bolt of a golden lightning bolt shot towards the orb from his fingertip. The orb shattered by the lightning bolt into countless pieces. How? How? Are you doing this?" Jonah stuttered while the others began to question their sanity. "Magic. Impossible." Michael stopped releasing the fear toxin into the air. He knew the display of spell casting would keep them afraid. Even he himself didn't know the complete extent of his new powers. He was now at the core formation level 8. The system put his body into hibernation, so he could absorb most of the first energy radiated by the artifact. Although his body was put into hibernation, he heard everything Maria said. You're good," he spoke while still floating in the air. It wasn't just mere words, she really did surprise Michael. Even he was unable to see through her scheme. "The artifact will be awakened in 10 minutes. The system reminded Michael. Before the blast, he switched the orb with the system's help. If he had avoided the blast, Maria or Johnny wouldn't have thought he was dead. Then they might have killed him for real, as he was unable to move a muscle during the hibernation process. Getting blasted by the explosive hurt him like hell, yet his hunger for power gave him the strength to endure the pain. Because he endured the pain, she left him alone without interrupting his absorption process as well as the process of opening the artifact. Meanwhile, the system was opening the artifact. He decided to test his newfound powers on the people before him. He was currently using one of his powers, the dark smoke. Since the system was busy with opening the artifact, it never actually explained the new powers in detail to him. He was extremely curious about what the system meant by awakening his Dark Lord powers. "Although your plan wasn't perfect, it got the job done. If I'm right, you already have a way to escape this pyramid." Maria or no one in the hall opened their mouths. They were either too scared or shocked to speak. "I'll let you live if you kneel down and swear your loyalty to me." He almost felt bad for killing them, so he decided to offer them a choice to save themselves. Not that he expected any of them to kneel down, still he gave them a choice. "Since even daughters want you dead, I'll give you 3 seconds to make a choice." Whoosh! Suddenly an arrow shot towards Michael from Marcella's crossbow. Rude, he caught the crossbow bolt easily before it could reach him. Wind blast! A gust of wind shot from Michael's hand blasted away the entire group into the wall behind them. They all collided with the wall before dropping to the ground. Jonah completely lost his consciousness after the collision. He remained on the ground without moving a muscle. "Your time's up." To Ross, Maria saw the same golden lightning bolt that destroyed the artifact being fired at her father. The lightning bolt went straight between Ross' eyes, creating almost an inch-wide radius hole in his forehead. "No!" Marcella screamed, looking at the blood gushing out of Ross' head. His eyes remained open, staring at Michael with utter shock. "Murderer, I'll kill you!" Marcella tried to pick her crossbow frantically. Because he stopped emitting fear toxin into the air, they somewhat gained the courage to fight back, partially due to the adrenaline. Seeing her father's corpse lying beside kindled the feelings she never wanted to feel again. Initially, she thought she was ruthless enough to kill her father, except when Ross was killed by the monster in front of her. Tears gushed out of her eyes. "Ignitia!" He raised his finger again as another lightning bolt shot towards Marcella. Marcella was quick, but she was not quick enough to evade the lightning bolt. She could not even knock one bolt in her crossbow before the lightning bolt ended her life. Michael felt pity when she saw her dead body hit the ground. If she was willing, he could have used her as a subordinate. If it was before he saw the future, he would have let them go or tried to pursue them to be his subordinates. Except now he couldn't afford to make a mistake like keeping an unwilling subordinate, even if the system could ensure they can't do any harm to him. Besides, he knew Marcella or Ross would rather die than bend their knees before him. You killed them. You killed my father. Following Marcella's death, Mariah's anger erupted in her heart like a volcano. The veins in her eyes popped, turning her eyes blood red. Isn't that what you wanted? Don't tell me you've gone soft. I'll kill you. Master. Johnny tried to stop Marcella, but she had already taken her spear to kill Michael. Logan on the other side was staring at everything in complete shock. He never imagined a guy who protected them along the way would kill them. Even though he knew David for a short amount of time, he considered him as a friend, and it kept him from lifting his sledgehammer against David. Go in peace, Maria. He wasn't mad at Maria for what she has done until now. If he had to blame someone, it would be Ross who made all the mistakes that turned Maria into this. Ignitia, feeling pity for her, he fired the lightning bolt from the tip of his finger. Like before, the lightning bolt went straight through her forehead. Because Johnny stood behind her, the lightning bolt pierced his throat. In one lightning bolt, Michael took 2 lives. The deaths of Maria and Johnny finally brought Logan back to reality. He mustered his courage to raise his sledgehammer against Michael, though he knew he had no chance of winning against a magic caster. Logan never really believed in gods, but looking at David, he wondered if he's a god himself came to the world to punish them. Stand down, Logan. Michael waved his hand as the sledgehammer in Logan's hand flew away from the big guy's hands. Back at the ship, you said you're going to retire after this mission and live the rest of your life as a wealthy person. Swear your loyalty, Logan, and you'll be richer than you've never even imagined. Unlike Marcella or Ross, he liked Logan. Logan was a simple-minded good guy who would never scheme against him. Because of that, he tried to convince Logan to be his subordinate. Who are you, David? Is David even your real name? Despite Logan's look, the big guys had a soft heart. That was why Michael could see the sadness of losing Ross and Marcella in his eyes. This world will soon turn into a living nightmare, Logan. I'm here to stop it, by slaughtering people in cold blood. After seeing you use magic inside the void line, I don't know what to believe anymore, but one thing I'm sure, David, this isn't how you save the world. Note: don't think MC will become a self-righteous goody two-shoes in world-saving drug. He's going to change the world to his liking. Chapter 257. You think this world doesn't need saving? Open your eyes. What do you think would have happened if Ross gave the artifact to the Giselle Senate? They will control the undead army outside, wage war against the other kingdoms, and thousands of people will die, lose their families, and end up being slaves to the rich. If you by any chance thought of any of them as innocent, you're the most naive person in the world. These words played again and again in Logan's mind. And look around you, man, if this world needs saving, it's from you. You killed a father, a daughter, and a good friend for what? Refusing to serve you? Do you really think you're the good guy? Michael heard everything without uttering a word as Logan continued. I might be a mercenary, but I have no innocent blood on my hand. If I agree to serve you, I'll end up just like you. So go ahead, kill me. You're so full of it, big guy. Finally, Michael couldn't take any more of this bullshit Logan spouting. You think this world doesn't need saving? Open your eyes. What do you think would have happened if Ross gave the artifact to the Giselle Senate? They will control the undead army outside, wage war against the other kingdoms, and thousands of people will die, lose their families, and end up being slaves to the rich. If you by any chance thought of any of them as innocent, you're the most naive person in the world. Logan stared at the dead bodies around them. Deep down, he knew no one here is innocent. One day you'll realize that the good guys aren't enough to save the world. Michael activated the lightning dash, appearing in front of Logan within a snap of time. Logan felt like he was hit by a big log in the face before everything turned dark. He could have easily killed Logan like the others, but his instincts told him not to. Somehow Michael believed Logan would be a loyal subordinate in the future. After knocking Logan down, his gaze turned to H, who was staring at him with a pale face. Jonah was still unconscious. What about you, H? Do you want to serve me or die? Sparks of lightning danced around his fingers. Looking at the lightning sparks, H shivered. I'll serve you, my lord. This was the first time Michael saw overwhelming fear in H's face. Even when they were facing deadly odds, he never lost the courage, yet the fear toxin and the power he displayed broke H's courage completely. Michael was glad of H's choice because people like him are easier to keep on the leash rather than people like Ross who chose death rather than bending his knees. What's your real name? Michael floated slowly towards H. Hey. Heimberg, my lord, he stuttered without looking him in the eyes. Are you willing to be my subordinate, Heimberg? Michael doubted the system would accept him as a subordinate, because Heimberg was basically forced to swear his loyalty. It was either bending his knees or death, and Heimberg chose to bend the knee. Yes. Yes, my lord. He quickly sat in front of him on one knee, swearing his loyalty. Warning. The target cannot be forced to be the host's subordinate. The system recommends a different way to make the target swears his loyalty towards the host. Just as he expected, the system threw him a couple of warning messages. Previously, when he was recruiting someone to be his subordinate, he used a stick and carrot method, except now where he only gave them the stick, not the carrot. He doesn't need to be registered with you, system. He ignored the system's messages. In the southern continent, he was like a god. He doubted Heimberg would be stupid enough to betray him. If Michael wanted, he could destroy the Giselle Kingdom or any kingdom in the southern continent in a couple of days. If he brought Nightmare with him, and he was able to use his dragon breath, it'd only take a day to destroy any kingdom. Rise, Heimberg. Somehow Michael felt like movie villains, speaking these words through the voice modulator. Heimberg swallowed a mouthful of saliva before slowly standing up. He was loyal to the Senate leader Caius, but not enough to die for him. Caius always used him to do his dirty works. The only reason Heimberg whirled for him was Caius paid him handsomely. It was under Caius' order he came here to retrieve the artifact. Ross knew this. However, what Ross didn't know was his secondary objective. Heimberg was to capture one of the Alpha Undeads. After what happened to Ross' wife, the Senate dropped the idea of experimenting with the Undeads. They felt like it was a far greater risk than they were initially thinking. Besides, except for Ross, no one was willing to venture into this island and capture an Alpha Undead. Tell me, Heimberg, why did you bring Jonah with you? This was a question Michael wanted to know the answer for. He's here to help me capture one of the Alpha Undeads. My lord. Heimberg didn't dare to hide the truth from him. Capture an Alpha Undead? Under whose orders? Michael had a hard time believing that an entire Senate would be utterly stupid enough to experiment on an Alpha Undead that possessed the intelligence of a human and abilities of a superhuman. Senator Caius orders. He's one of the Senate leaders and Jonah is his son. Michael frowned, staring at the unconscious Jonah. No loving father would send their child to this hell, unless that father didn't give a damn about his child. Senator Caius, huh? I'll meet him soon. Caius seemed like an interesting person who would either prove useful to Michael or die. Dark Queen, have you finished the task? Heimberg had no idea who he was talking to. While he was staring at David, he felt the hall tremble. Heimberg looked over his shoulder to see another figure in the dark appear. In a blink of an eye, the figure appeared beside David. Heimberg felt a chill running through his spine when he saw the figure who just appeared, and what she brought with her. Looking at the armor itself, Heimberg could tell it was a girl. She was also wearing the exact same armor as David, but she didn't radiate black smoke around her, or had crimson red eyes. Rather, she looked normal compared to him. The girl didn't freak him out, but it was the three figures who were standing behind the girl that made him shiver. Although the girl covered their faces with black cloth, Heimberg could tell looking at their skinless body that stinks to high heaven, Alpha Undeads. She was controlling them through the chain attached to their collars like dogs. The Alpha Undead rattled the chains violently, yet they could never escape. Heimberg took several steps back when one of the Alpha Undead reached its hand out to scratch him. Delar will have a time of his life with them, Michael said while Gaia stared at Heimberg and the dead bodies around them. Because of the mask she was wearing, Michael couldn't tell the shock and surprise in her eyes. It was obvious the reason for her shock was his sudden transformation, yet Heimberg's existence before they prevented her from questioning him about his new powers. No Alpha Undeads in the forest. If any more of them is here, they would be among the army outside. Michael nodded. The 3 Alpha Undeads would be enough for Delar or him to experiment. He knew the artifact is the reason for Alpha Undeads, yet he wanted to know more about this new kind of undead. However, unlike Caius, he was not going to bring the undeads to the dark forest, but planning to bring Delar to the southern continent. Did you get it? Her curiosity got the better of her as she asked him about the artifact. She gawked around to see it, but she couldn't find anything except dead bodies and weapons. Heimberg too wanted to see what kind of artifact they sent them to get. Michael tapped his chest. It's here, we'll talk about it on the ship, Gaia nodded, controlling her curiosity. Heimberg wake tie him up with this. Michael threw ropes at Heimberg looking at Jonah. He still hasn't found out what to do with Jonah, but it was unnecessary to kill Jonah until he knew more about Jonah's ability. Heimberg stared at Logan, asking what to do with them wordlessly. Tie him up too. Heimberg wondered why he didn't kill Logan. The person in front of him obviously wasn't much of a kind-hearted guy. Otherwise he wouldn't have killed Ross and everyone in cold blood. Heimberg couldn't help but question why he spared Logan. One thing was sure for Heimberg, he was planning something with the big guy. After Heimberg stepped back to tie Jonah and Logan up, Gaia began to stare at Michael from top to bottom. The black smoke kinda looked scary to her. Plus, the crimson eyes made him look like some kind of an evil god. Awesome, teach me the tricks too, she whispered. Her eyes sparkled behind the mask. Artifact is ready to open. The system recommends the host send Heimberg away before opening the artifact. A smile emerged on his face as the time to see the artifact had finally come. Chapter 258. Because of the system's warning, Michael reluctantly decided to wait before opening the artifact. What are we gonna do with those bodies? While Heimberg was tying up Jonah and Logan, she asked about the dead bodies. Well, give them a proper burial. They deserve it. He was not a monster to let the bodies rot or throw the bodies to the undead army outside. What do you think about this place? Michael asked Gaia. It wasn't anything fancy, just a gigantic empty hall surrounded by old walls. If you think about making this place our base in the southern continent, I have no objection. In fact, I was thinking the same. The pyramid has nature's protection like the rainforest and the ocean surrounding the island. Also, we have an undead army standing outside protecting from, well, everything. She spoke what he had in his mind, yet he wanted to tell her something. This place was built by the Order of the Death. Behind her mask, her brows arched up in surprise. The same guys who built the Abyssal? Yeah, when I entered this place first, this building or something talked. It said, "Welcome, Lord Lucifer." Are you sure? Pretty sure. I haven't heard the voice after that. Well, for dead guys, they'd been pretty helpful for us. First, they gave us the Abyssal and now they had given us this pyramid. She was pretty happy with the place. Without using arch energy, it would be nearly impossible for someone to reach this place. If they destroyed the rope bridge outside, no one in this world could get inside unless someone could fly to the top of the pyramid and activate the teleporting light. Thinking about the teleporting light, she remembered something else. Hey, if they built this place, they would have left something to control the teleporting light, right? What about the artifact? Take it out. I want to see it. She shook him by his elbow in curiosity. Contain your curious snake. Well, open it when we're alone. He gave a gentle knock on her head. As payback, she too gently punched him in the shoulder. Finally, after a few more minutes, Heimberg finished tying Logan and Jonah. He dragged the two of them to Michael. Logan's face was swollen on the place where he received Michael's punch. Jonah, on the other hand, received no punches, yet he completely lost his consciousness, simply due to the overwhelming fear stimulated by the fear toxin he inhaled. With the bodies tied up, he still had one more thing to take care of. He flew towards the wall in front of him as he heard the system's voice in his head. Does the host wish to mark this place for runic teleportation? Yep. A golden L symbol appeared on the wall before disappearing out of sight. Now that he had taken care of the teleportation, he came back to Heimberg. Heimberg, hold on to them. He barely understood his words before he saw David raise his hand. Suddenly he was lifted by an invisible force. His body jerked, but he was able to balance himself by holding on to the unconscious bodies of Jonah and Logan. Heimberg looked over his shoulder while being lifted into the air, to see the dead bodies also being lifted into the air. "I'm flying," Heimberg mumbled. This was the first time he had experienced something like this. When they reached the top, the light appeared from the very top of the pyramid. Like before, the light enveloped them. The light disappeared as they appeared on the rope bridge. The sunlight has completely disappeared, but the moon provided gentle yet beautiful light along with sparkling stars. For a few moments, Michael just stared at the moonlit sky as it soothed his soul. The sky had millions of stars, sparkling in various colors. The distant Milky Ways added extra charm to the dark blue sky. In his focus on the sky, he overlooked the silent reaper docked in the sea in the distance. "Where's the east? This world, it's beautiful, isn't it?" he asked, still staring at the sky. It wasn't as he had never seen such sights back on Earth. It's that something about this world that made even simple sights artistic and divine. Yes, my lord, the sight really made him agree with David wholeheartedly. Previously he heard some people who traveled on flying ships boast about views. At that time he simply thought they were boasting about their flying ship trip, though now, experiencing the view himself, he realized they weren't just bragging but telling the truth. Heimberg pointed in the opposite direction to where they came from. Soon, Heimberg began to float again in the air. He went higher and higher as he was able to see a black ship. The sails of the ship were up, meaning the ship was docked. He felt pity for the group who's coming for the artifact, or the glory of killing the undeads. However, even from a distance, Heimberg could tell the ship wasn't just a merchant ship, it looked like a warship. "The world will be more beautiful when we rule it." His heart skipped a beat after the girl spoke these words. If someone had spoken the same words, he would have laughed it off, but these two could really bring down the entire southern continent in a few days as far as he knew. "That's the plan," he nodded before continuing his journey towards the east where the Silent Reaper is waiting for them. They flew above the army of undead and the ocean of trees before landing on a small mountain peak. From the peak, they could clearly see the ocean and the Silent Reaper. A small portion of the cliff was barren without any trees, and he chose this place to be their graves. Bury them here. He quickly entered the system store to buy a shovel and 2 knockout potions. "Fear not, there aren't any undeads near you." He threw the shovel at Heimberg as he took off from the cliff with Gaia, leaving Heimberg with the dead bodies while he took Jonah and Logan with him. "I can see the point in sparing the big guy, but why did you spare him?" she asked, poking Jonah in the face. No matter how many times she poked him, he still didn't wake up. Sometimes brains can be just as useful as bronze. "Let's make this guy work with Dalar. That way if Dalar were to die, we'll have another expert in undeads." She was genuinely surprised at his words. "You think Dalar would betray us?" Since the system went haywire when he tried to recruit Dalar as his subordinate, Michael knew something was up with Dalar. Hence, he put surveillance cameras in Dalar's room to monitor him. Even to this day, Michael was keeping an eye on Dalar. There was no denying Dalar's talent in summoning and controlling netherils. If he was to face Guardians and probably the 9 great clans, he knew he would have to use the netherils at some point. If Jonah could learn everything there is to learn about summoning netherils, Michael could dispose of Dalar without worrying about losing the anetherils. Of course, if Dalar remained loyal to him, he wouldn't kill the orc. While flying towards the Silent Reaper docked in the sea, he flicked his wrist as 2 syringes and a vial of sparkling sky blue potion appeared in his hand. Gaia saw him filling the syringes with the potion she had never seen before. Michael soon injected each syringe into Jonah and Logan to make sure they don't wake up at least for another 12 hours, as the syringes contained a powerful knockout agent. This potion would be useless against cultivators, so he never bothered to brew and sell them in the Majestic. Since the Southerners weren't cultivators, he could knock out anyone with this potion. Under the moonlight, Shorty was having a peaceful walk with his good old friend called Rum. The others were long gone to their beds except him. He was bored out of his mind for the last couple of weeks. He wanted to go out in the sea, plunder merchant ships. "I hope the new captain will let us plunder as before. I mean, how could we call ourselves pirates if we don't do any pirating? On the other hand, if the new captain wants, he could use magic to make any kingdom give what we want. Is that really pirating? I'm talking to myself again." Short slapped himself. He laid on the wooden floor, looking at the moon. "It doesn't hurt to get yourself some rest, has Shorty?" Again he spoke to himself. "Isn't this past your bedtime, Shorty?" Shorty tripped the rum bottle he kept beside him in fear. His body jerked as he jumped up to see 2 figures flying towards him. What in the hell? Shorty rubbed his eyes. For a second he thought he was dreaming. The sudden fear removed the rum's effects. His blurry vision soon cleared up to reveal the figure of Dark Queen. Dark Queen, no matter how many times he had seen her, she still freaked him out with her black armor and magic. Shorty recognized her, but he couldn't recognize Michael because Shorty never saw him in his Lucifer armor. Lock them in a cell. Michael was not in the mood to stay and chat with his crew. He just threw Jonah and Logan on the floor. Then he willed the system to teleport him and Gaia back to the pyramid. What's your guess about the artifact? What will it be? Let me give you a clue, it's badass. And oh, I already gave you a clue in one of the S? The clue is in Chapter 248. Chapter 259. They both appeared inside the hall once again. The light emitted from the walls around them was enough to see the hall clearly. Come on, show me, system. He willed the system to hand him over the artifact from the system storage. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. A small light emerged above his hand before transforming itself into a silver oval-shaped object. Although from the outside it looked like an ordinary thing, she could feel an immense amount of energy pulsating from within. Is that an egg? She reached out to touch the artifact in his hand. The thing in his hand wasn't what he expected. At first it was a black orb and now it just changed its color to silver. Crack. Just as Gaia's hand touched the surface of the thing, cracks began to form on its surface. It is an egg, Michael confirmed his suspicion, sensing a heartbeat from the thing. Ah! Suddenly Gaia squealed. He was stunned by her sudden, unexpected reaction. Before he could ask her why, he too felt intense pain all over his body. It felt like his soul itself screaming in pain for a second. The pain quickly vanished as he saw a tiny head rising from the egg. Soon another tiny head rose from the egg. They were stunned to see two tiny heads, but to their surprise, another head rose. Under their bewildered gazes, the tiny beast completely broke out of the shell. Another shock hit their core as they were not three beasts but the three heads shared one body. The hand-sized beast shockingly resembled a beast on Earth. Not a real living beast but a beast he saw in movies, King Ghidorah. The only different factor was the color of its scales and the eyes. Each head was covered in different color scales. The head in the center had shiny cloud silver scales while one head in the right had pure white scales, and the left one had black scales. The head in the center stared at Michael and Gaia with its rather round eyes that somewhat made the beast look cute. Give me something to eat, jerk. The white head spoke in a feminine voice to break them out from their daze. The white head sounded like the child version of Gaia. Huh. She was too stunned to get back at the white head. They are in a trauma state, because this might be the first time they have seen our kind. I cannot find any references to our species in their memories. Michael saw the silver head speak in a calm voice. The black head, however, remained silent. It stared at the hall like it was surveying the surrounding. System, what kind of beast is this? It's one of the rarest beings in the universe, a three-headed hydra. The system lacks the necessary information to find how the three-headed hydra egg ended up in this world. But the egg has been in a hibernation state for over 3,000 years. Over 3,000 years. Wow. The system also found that the three-headed hydra emits the same frequency of energy that has been sucking the arch energy in the southern continent, hence the void area. Do you think there might be another hydra sleeping beneath the southern continent? Yes, the system has already informed the host about the extraterrestrial being consuming the arch energy. Now it seems like the extraterrestrial being is a hydra. He remembered the system's words. It also warned him not to go search for the being until he reached the immortal stage. Jerk. No, the word is bitch, ya bitch. Give me something to eat, bitch. The white head gnarred its teeth at Gaia. She finally came back to her senses. Who do you calling bitch, you tiny fuck? I will rip your head off. She flicked the hydra's white head. Please stop, the silver head pleaded with both of them. But the white head already moved itself to take a bite out of her hand. Fortunately, the neck was not long enough for the white head to get to her hand. You don't seem like a normal human in your memories. The black head finally opened its mouth, questioning Michael. Did you read our memories? Michael creased his brows. If the hydra read his memories, it would know about his previous life on Earth. This was too early to trust this beast with his previous life. Until now, only Gaia knew about his origin, and he would like to keep it that way. Luckily, Blackhead Hydra shook its head. We didn't read your memoirs but learned the necessary information and skills such as the language. the species in this world, etc. System? He called out the system to check whether it's true or not. The system reassures the host that the Hydra cannot read one's memories. It could only absorb certain knowledge from the being it first touches after it hatches. In this case, the Hydra touched both you and Gaia, so it absorbed the knowledge necessary for its survival from your brains and also. The system's voice trailed away. There's always something else with you, system. I'm not even surprised. He mentally prepared himself to hear what the system's going to say next. A hatchling Hydra would usually get its knowledge from another Hydra, most of the time from its mother. However, if the hatchling Hydra touched another species, on top of the necessary knowledge, it would also inherit the personality of the being it touched. Let me guess, the Hydra inherited both mine and Gaia's personalities. Huh. Kinda, if he could move his body while he was interacting with the system, he would have rubbed his temples. Everything was complex when it came to him. He learned to blame himself rather than the system. Hit me with it. Each head inherited each of your personalities. Wait a minute, there are 3 heads and there's only 2 of us, he interrupted the system. The white head, as you may have noticed, inherited Gaia's personality. The black head inherited the personality of yourself on Earth. The silver head inherited Abra's personality. Huh? The system confused Michael. Nothing seemed out of place from the system's previous explanation when it came to Gaia and the white head. He couldn't help wondering how the hell did the silver head inherited Abra's personality when he was not even alive. Trust me, host, you can't and won't comprehend the process of Hydra inheritance. The system sounded somewhat overbearing when it spoke these words, like it was an all-knowing person, and Michael was a stupid kid. Then simplify it, system. He tried to remain calm despite the system's attitude. Well, The system went silent for a few seconds before speaking again. The Hydra inherits the personality from the soul of the being it first touched, right? Yes. If the Hydra had touched Gaia only, the Hydra would have inherited only her personality, as she has only one soul. But the host happens to have a split soul, one part Abra's, one part you. Therefore, when it touched both of you, the inheritance process resulted in the Hydra inheriting the personality of Gaia, Abra's, and you. Now the 3 heads are the best and or worst versions of yourselves. Michael uttered no words but let everything sink in silence. What are you so upset about, host? You're extremely lucky to get your hands on a Hydra. So quit whining and take the world by storm. For better or worse, the system lightened his mood. Can I make the Hydra my pet? Or a subordinate? Yes, you can, for a price. What price? I didn't pay you when Nightmare became my familiar. Because it's a dragon and the one in your hand is a Hydra, not to mention of the powerful beings in the entire universe. He sighed in his heart. After spending his time with the system, he had learned there's no point in arguing with the system when it comes to badass points. Hence, he decided to shut up and pay the price to make the Hydra his familiar, just like Nightmare. Are you gonna tell me the price or not? 9,999 badass points only. He wanted to slap the system silly when he heard it shamelessly talk like a salesperson. Why don't you round up and take 10,000? Cool, will do. Wait, what? Fuck. It was too late for him to regret as he saw 10,000 badass points getting reduced, making his total number of badass points to 64,000. Looking at the number, he could tell it was gradually increasing because of the sect. Since the legend of the Sunrise sect had been growing, the number of badass points he receives per month increased significantly. For now, he had other things to worry about than the number of badass points. He came out of the system to see Gaia and the white head looking at each other menacingly, while the silver head tried to snuff out the anger fire with them. Looking at the 3 heads, the system's words made more sense to him. The white head was Gaia, hungry, bad-mouthing, and ill-tempered. The silver head, Abra's, kind, honest, loving personality. Finally the black head, cunning, intelligent, shrewd. Looking at the black head's eyes felt like he was looking at himself in the mirror. The black head was the ghost before his soul merged with Abra's. Among the 3 heads, the black head, it was the deadliest. Just by looking at its eyes, Michael could tell. After all, it inherited his personality. Chapter 260. How long are we here? We don't see any information regarding our species in your memories. That means we're either extinct in this world or we came from somewhere else. Another world. The blackhead was spot on. The other two heads immediately turned their gazes towards the black head after they heard its words. As far as I know, 3,000 years. How can you tell? The silver head, which inherited a brass personality, asked Michael. Can we really trust this three-headed beast? Or are these three beasts in one body? I'm confused. I have a question too, the white head said. Why don't you shut up? Ouch. Michael flicked the white head before Gaia started a fight with it again. I swear to gods I'm gonna crush this little shit. The black head moved towards the white head, headbutting the white head to make it shut up. You're hitting yourself, you idiot, the white head rebuked after getting headbutt by the black head. Regardless that they were just born, they began to fight like siblings. Michael waited for them to finish fighting between them while Gaia came to his side. Let the man speak. The silver head broke off the fight by putting its head in between them. After a few seconds, all three heads turned towards Michael. Your species are called Hydra. I don't know where you came from, but the black head is right. You're not a creature of this world. Then how did we end up here? The silver head asked. My guess is 3,000 years ago, an organization called the Order of the Death found you and built this pyramid to keep you safe. Safe from what? The white head gnarred its teeth. The silver head looked worried while the black head did not show any changes on its face. It remained calm and collected. Probably from the Guardians. Do you know about the Guardians? Michael asked the Hydra. No, said the white head. Then we have a lot to talk about, but first, you three should know the situation you're in. The Hydra may have been born just a couple of minutes ago, but after a few interactions with it, Michael could tell it has the mental capacity of a full-grown human already. Even Nightmare wasn't as intelligent as the Hydra when Michael took him in. The organization that saved you is no more but their enemies, Guardians. Now they are one of the most powerful organizations in this world. Anything remotely related to the Order of the Death is considered evil by them. So on top of you guys are extraterrestrial, your history with the Order is enough for the Guardians to hunt you down and kill you. That's the best case. You hear that? That's the best case, Gaia devilishly chuckled looking at the white head. Now tell them the worst case. The worst case is 3 spend your lives in some torture room where they would do all kinds of experiments on you. You have 3 heads, so use your imagination. He stopped talking for a moment to let everything sink into them. It was logical for them not to trust him completely. However, Michael had his ways to make all 3 heads trust him. Lucky for you guys, we share the same enemy, the Guardians, and you 3 happen to inherit our personalities. Wait, what? His last words wiped off the smile on Gaia's face. Haven't you noticed? The white head inherited your personality. Are you kidding? Both Gaia and the white head asked him at the same time. Meanwhile, the black head and the silver head stared at each other before turning their gazes at Michael. First, they wondered whether what he said about the white head inheriting Gaia's personality was true or not. Secondly, if what he said was true, they wondered who among the 2 of them inherited Michael's personality. I want to ask how you know this, but I'm not gonna do that. Like always, I'll just trust you. Let me guess, you're not gonna tell us how you know about us when there are no other species of our kind in your world. The black head saw Michael nod. It's not important how I know. What's important is, you 3 are connected to us. For a few seconds, the black head and the silver head focused their gazes on Michael. The white head, however, locked in a staring contest with Gaia. Times like these made him question Gaia's maturity level. It was like her inner child is still alive and well. First, he saw her bicker with Nightmare constantly, and now, she locked horns with the white head. If what you're saying is true, who inherited your personality, you or him? Both. You don't have to completely believe me. We're gonna suspend some quality time together, and you'll come to realize the truth behind my words. The 2 heads looked at Gaia and the white head. Michael then took out the artifact he got from Nightcrawler. Do you recognize this? Or know anything about it? This is what led us to you. Finally, the white head took its gaze away from Gaia. The 3 heads moved towards the artifact, studying the artifact. Hey, I can sense some familiarity with this. Me too, the silver head and the white head whispered to each other. Are we gonna trust these humans? Michael or Gaia couldn't hear them as the Hydra's voice was way below the frequency of the human hearing range. You see another way? We were just born and we still don't have enough information about this world to survive. He was right about one thing. This world doesn't have another one of us. So it's likely that someone would try to capture and experiment on us, the blackhead spoke as the silverhead nodded in agreement. They seem okay and trustworthy to me. After all, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even have been born. So what do? The whitehead asked the other two. The silverhead turned its gaze towards the blackhead. We have to be with them until we know more about everything, the three of them agreed with a nod. Until they learn everything there is to know about their species in this world. They decided to live with Michael. After deciding, they looked back at the artifact in front of them again. One of my kind, suddenly the three of them heard a voice inside their head. Good. Very good, the three of them felt an intense pain inside their heads. They tried to shake the pain away, but every single word the voice uttered increased the pain they were feeling. Michael sensed the artifact in his hand slightly tremble. A couple of seconds after he felt the tremble, the three heads began to bang their heads with each other in pain. Something's happening. Gaia quickly yet gently took the Hydra from Michael's palm. The system has found another Hydra trying to establish a telepathic connection with the three heads. The system recommends the host destroy the artifact immediately. Get out of our heads, the tiny Hydra screamed. This time they heard its scream loud and clear. He tried to crush the artifact, but no matter how hard he tried, he simply lacked the strength to crush it. Death range, the surroundings immediately darkened, almost pitch black. Gaia could see the literal fire in his eyes burning brighter and brighter. Crack. The artifact produced a cracking sound under his crush. Soon more cracks formed on its surface. He couldn't know the exact extent of his power inside the death range after absorbing the first energy radiated from the Hydra egg. Yet he could feel his raw strength at least multiplied by 3 times. Finally, Michael crushed the artifact into pieces. But the moment he destroyed the artifact, a monstrous shout echoed through the empty halls. How dare you! The entire pyramid trembled violently as dust and stone pieces from the ceiling began to fall down. Large cracks formed in the walls as well as the ground beneath them. For a moment, they thought the floor was gonna split open. It was a frickin' earthquake on the level of Richter 9. Quickly Michael and Gaia flew upwards to escape the pyramid. They didn't want the pyramid to fall on their heads. Soon, the light surrounded them to teleport them outside. When they came outside, they saw large cracks running through the outer walls of the pyramid. The hibernating undead army had long awoken by the earthquake. The ground cracked open in several areas as many undeads fell into the cracks. No. Michael was afraid of the pyramid crumbling down into dust. He just found a perfect base in the southern continent. He would hate for it to be destroyed before he could even use it for a single day. Are you guys alright? Gaia asked the Hydra in her hand. The 3 heads slowly rose up. Here, take this, you'll feel better. What is it? The silver head ignored the black head's quest as it already opened its tiny mouth wide open to let her pour the healing potion into its mouth. Fortunately, after a few minutes, the earthquake stopped and everything remained as it was except for the several cracks on the ground surrounding the pyramid and on its surface itself. Blackhead and Whitehead felt their pain ease up after the silver head drank the potion. They were able to take a few deep breaths after the earthquake stopped. It seems you guys already made another enemy, he said, looking at the 3 heads. That might another hostile Hydra. Chapter 261. After the earthquake, they didn't return to the pyramid but flew back to the cliff where they left Heimberg to bury the others. On his way to the cliff, Michael saw a few broken trees, cracks large enough to get noticed from high altitude as well as flocks of birds flying out of the forest. He was hoping Heimberg survived the earthquake because Heimberg was the doorway to dominate his first target, the Kingdom of Giselle. So what did you say the name of this island? Undead Island. You should stay away from these nasty little fuckers. It was weird enough to see her keeping the Hydra closer to her chest like the Hydra was her baby, and now she began to advise them. Is she planning to keep it as her pet? He couldn't help questioning himself. He wouldn't mind if she wants to keep the Hydra as her familiar. Everything she has was his and everything he has was hers. He never thought Nightmare solely belonged to him, and he would never be jealous if she bonded with the Hydra more than him. Gradually Michael slowed his flying speed, until he came to a stop in the mid-air. Why did you stop? Michael turned back to look at the tiny Hydra in her hand. The 3 heads gawked at him. having no idea what he was going to say next. Do you think we should reveal their existence or keep it a secret? No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't come to a solid decision. Keeping the Hydra's existence a secret will probably be safer for them until they could figure out their powers, but hiding the Hydra's existence would prevent him from earning more badass points. Why would you hide the Hydra from the world? Show off host. The one who answered Michael was not Gaia but the system itself. No one likes a show-off system, unless what they're showing off is dope as fuck. Fuck, that's true. Let's hide them when we are on the Elon continent. Here, we don't need to hide them. I think we should keep our heads low. The Blackhead voted for hiding from the world. Fuck that, I'm not gonna do anything. If you want to keep your ugly head down, go ahead. No one's stopping you. The Whitehead, however, disagreed with the Blackhead, leaving the Silverhead to break the tie. The Silverhead gawked at between Gaia and Michael before finally fixing its eyes on Michael. For a few seconds, Michael pondered about the issue in his mind. Taking a deep breath, Michael made his decision. Well, do as she says. Obviously, they couldn't show the Hydra around in the cultivation continents like Elon because there were so many powerful figures who could kill Michael in a blink of an eye. However, in the southern continent, he was basically a godlike existence, so he had no need to worry about Hydra's safety. System, do the same thing you did to Nightmare. It would cost the host another 6,000 badass points. Don't act like you're not happy about it, System, he said in his mind, placing his hand on the three heads. What are you doing? The Whitehead chewed his palm, yet Michael just ignored it. Soon a light emerged from his hand, enveloping Hydra's tiny body. She was familiar with this sight as she saw him do the same to Nightmare. I missed that ugly lizard. When she saw the scene, her mind reminded her of Nightmare. She never thought she would miss seeing Nightmare every morning when she wakes up. No matter what she did, the dragon would always end up between them on the bed. She wondered what he was doing back home. Ever since a couple of weeks ago, she was having nightmares about someone calling for her. When she told Michael about her feelings, he said there's nothing to worry about. Of course, she didn't know Michael was checking the system to see Nightmare status. To this day, he didn't think someone would murder Jack. Where does the host want the system to teleport the Hydra? No, teleport them inside the pyramid. That's safer. The light soon disappeared from their sight. What was that? The Blackhead asked. When you're in danger, the rune I placed on you will teleport back inside the pyramid. That's wonderful, right guys? The Silverhead grinned. It does sound cool. Finally the three of them agreed on something. The Blackhead had its doubts, but for now, it knew there's no use in questioning him. As far as the Blackhead considered, they needed to depend on the two humans to survive in this world. All right, let's go. He turned back, continuing to fly towards the cliff. It took them only a couple of minutes before returning back to the cliff where they left Heinberg. Under the moonlight, Heinberg was standing in the middle of the graves he dug. He was pretty shaken up by the earthquake. Michael could clearly see the fear in his eyes. So you're still here? She wasn't completely sure that Heinberg would remain here instead of taking a chance to escape. She would rather have one subordinate with a functional brain than hundreds of stupid subordinates. Heinberg was not stupid enough to escape through the forest that was filled with dangers lurking everywhere. When Heinberg saw the three-headed creature in his hand, the fear in his eyes got replaced by surprise and shock. He wondered whether the beast came out of the orb or not. No matter what, Heinberg knew there's no chance in hell that anyone in the southern continent could take the artifact from these two. Let's go. Michael waved his hand as Heinberg began to rise from the ground. As a sign of respect, Michael stared at their graves for a few seconds before leaving them in the cliff to their endless slumber. Rest in peace. Under the glistening moonlight, the Silent Reaper was floating on the ocean calmly. The black warship looked more beautiful under the moonlight. The ship itself was calm, but not the crew members waiting for their captain. When Michael finally returned to the Silent Reaper, the entire crew were waiting for them on the deck. They seemed agitated. At first, they were pretty creeped out about Michael's appearance with all the armor, the fiery eyes and the black smoke cloud be around him. Seeing the pirates' tensed-up bodies, Gaia removed her mask. What are you looking at? It's us, Michael, Gaia, and Heinberg landed on the deck above the captain's cabin. He found Gibson gawking at him with fear in his eyes as the rest of them. Realizing he should go stand by his captain's side, Gibson came to Michael's side slightly limping. Gibson shuddered, looking at Michael's new form. How are our guests doing? They're still unconscious, Lord Lucifer. Heimberg saw enough pirates in his life to recognize the people in front of him as pirates. They reeked of rum and ocean. He recognized their profession but not the ship itself. He rummaged through his memories, but he had never seen this ship before, not in real life or in military scrolls. Michael willed the black smoke to disappear. In a couple of seconds, the smoke and the fire in his eyes disappeared. He had no need for the pirates to be afraid of him than they already were. I assume we have a guest room in this ship. Yes, we have a bunch, Lord Lucifer, Michael nodded. The first thing after he finished grasping the extent of his new powers, he wanted to take a tour around the ship to know its layouts, strengths, and weaknesses. Plus, he was planning to do some upgrades to the ship, mainly to its weaponry. Although he couldn't do any major weapon upgrades with his current inventor trait, he could still improve the existing cannons to do more damage. Since this was his first ship and he had taken a liking to the Silent Reaper, he would make this ship his home on the ocean as well as the most powerful ship in this entire world. Shorty, show him our guest room, Michael ordered Shorty, who was standing in the front of the crowd. Aye aye, Captain Lord Lucifer. Make yourself at home. We'll depart to Giselle in the morning. Yes, Lord Lucifer, Heimberg bowed, addressing him the way the pirates did. It was obvious David was not his real name, and he preferred to go by Lord Lucifer, so Heimberg adapted to this new situation. After all, if the unruly pirates accepted him as their captain, he knew he made the right choice by bending his knees, unlike Ross or the others. You guys can rest as well. Well, go to Giselle in the morning, he yet again reminded the pirates before turning to look at Gibson. I'll be in my room if you need me. Michael walked towards the captain's deck with Gaia, leaving the pirates. The Hydra didn't like the way the pirates looked at them. Yet it remained silent in Gaia's hand. Chapter 262. Although it had been some time, he never spent time in the captain's cabin. After walking down the stairs from the upper deck, he came before the captain's cabin. KRKKR. The doorknob creaked, letting him know about its old age. As he opened the door, he was welcomed by a lackluster room. Like the doorknob itself, the room looked ancient. There was no dust or cobwebs could be seen in the room as the pirates cleaned the room recently. The slow-burning candle on the oak table in the middle illuminated the room. The room was neither too big nor small. It was nearly the size of a master bedroom. Except for the white silk cushion on the room's corner, everything had a worn-out look to them. He thought Gaia would have redecorated the room. When he looked over his shoulder at Gaia, she just shrugged. I was busy doing chores for you for a few seconds. He scanned everything in the room. There were 2 old 6-foot-tall books racks on either side of the room. He never expected a pirate captain to read books, though. Near the book racks, one could see small bronze statues of naked ladies, covering their breasts with their hands. The room reeked of rum. For a person who never drank alcohol in his life, he would never spend a day in this room. On the top of the book racks, he noticed more bronze statues as well as some old feather hats. Apart from these things, there was nothing in the room. Gibson. It only took Gibson a couple of seconds to come to his side. Except that cushion and the table. He pointed at the silk cushion he bought from and presented to Gaia. I want everything out. My lord, everything? Gibson creased his bushy brows. Yes, everything. Michael stepped outside the room while Gibson signaled the pirates to follow him into the room. Why throw everything out? The silver head of the Hydra meekly asked Gaia. Did you see that room? It's not fit for a king and queen. I want my own place to sleep, the white head promptly said while the black head remained uttering no words. Also tell them to clean the room. I want it spotless. He didn't think he could get rid of the smell without using a potion or completely water wash. Since using a potion to clean the room was way easier than cleaning the room with water, he thought of a potion to do so. Show me the crew quarters. Initially, Michael wanted to know more about his newfound powers. However, after seeing the condition of his cabin, he changed his mind. If the captain's cabin was in that condition, he couldn't even imagine what a horrible nightmare would be in the crew quarters. Lord Lucifer, Gibson dragged his voice, hesitating to step towards him. It can't be that bad. Gaia avoided venturing into the crew quarters or anywhere in the ship to the matter. Come on, Gibson, let go. The door for the below deck was located a couple of meters in front of the mainsail pole. Michael let Gibson walk forward while he and Gaia followed him behind. The closer he got to the door, the more cold sweats appeared on his face. He was afraid of what the captain would do after seeing the mess downstairs. Creak, creak, creak. Every step he stepped on made a loud annoying creaking noise. It wasn't a big surprise considering the ship's age, and the curse that condemned the ship to stay at sea forever, or until they broke the curse. There was barely any light in the downstairs. Just a moment, Lord Lucifer. Gibson ran his hands through every corner of his shirt to find a match to light the lantern hanging on the wall. Don't bother. Michael snapped his fingers as an orb of green flames appeared above his hand. The green light illuminated the room clearly. Before him was a small pathway leading to the other end of the ship. Either side of the pathway was filled with wooden barrels and a couple of bunk beds. The below deck reeked of rum 10 times more than the captain's cabin. He was taken aback by the number of barrels lying around. The pirates clearly didn't bother to stack the barrels. He saw at least 50 wooden barrels before him. What's in those barrels? Although he had a feeling that those barrels are full of rum, he still asked Gibson because he couldn't completely come to terms with his crew wasting gold on this much rum. Huh. It's rum, Lord Lucifer. I want to know how much you bastards spending on buying rum tomorrow at the earliest. What they spent their gold on was not his business, still he gave a damn about it because how could the pirates follow his orders if they were drunk to their throats? He didn't want mindless drunks to be his crew. He continued to venture forward with his alchemy flames lighting the way. The sight remained constant as everywhere he turned, he saw nothing but wood barrels. The barrels were taking so much space that could be used to store useful items such as gunpowder, alchemy ingredients, and rations. You guys ever eat or survive on only rum? Gibson scratched the back of his head in shame. Ever since Lucifer ordered him to stop drinking and start drinking the potion, he hadn't drunk a single drop of rum. However, the rest of the pirates began to drink more than usual in the joy of escaping the curse. Half of the pirates spent half of their cut in buying barrels of rum. The other half spent all their gold on the rum. The pirate cove ran out of rum as they had to order a new batch just for them. Gibson knew this would eventually come to the captain's eyes, but he never thought the day would come this soon. This is worse than I thought. They barely had enough space to walk. After crossing countless barrels, they came before a plain wooden door. Instead of opening the door, Gibson stood in front of him, hesitating to open it. Will this get any worse? Don't answer me. Gaia shook her head as Michael sent a wave of wind that pushed open the door. The moment the door opened, his nose was overwhelmed by the smell of puke and rum. The 3 heads buried themselves in Gaia's hand, covering their noses. If a public toilet that hadn't been cleaned for years, and a sewer had a baby, it would smell way better than what he was smelling now. He thought he had a high tolerance for stink, but today he was proven wrong. The sheets covering the bed were turned brown from white. Obviously, the pirates didn't wash them for decades. I'll give all you batards a day to clean the fuck out of my ship. Michael didn't even bother to brew potions, but bought detergents and chemicals from the system. Gibson saw hundreds of small bottles filling the area behind him. They all had colorful labels. He never saw these things before in his life. Usually, people would mix the detergents and these chemicals with water to clean the place. However, after witnessing the ship's condition as well as the stink coming from every corner, he bought enough chemicals to wash the entire ship without the need of mixing them with water. After giving them to Gibson, he turned back to leave. He really didn't think he could venture into the ship any further without throwing up. If he had known the ship's condition before, he would have let Heimberg stay on the upper deck instead of giving him the guest room. He wondered what might be the condition of the guest room. I pity our prisoners, Gaia chuckled. I don't even want to look at the prison. Michael walked back to the upper deck without turning his back. He watched enough horrible things for one day. When he reached the upper deck, the pirates were dragging the book racks out of the room. They almost took everything out of the room. Captain, where do we put these? Shorty came running to Michael, with a proud smile on his face. His face shone like he managed to do something incredible. Put them on my head. Michael twisted Shorty's ears. He directed his frustration on poor Shorty. "Aw, Cap. Lord." All the other pirates stopped what they were doing and began to laugh at Shorty. "Stop laughing, you fucking idiots. I just saw the mess you've been making in my ship. The smile instantly disappeared from their faces when they heard him. They began to shudder, thinking he would throw away the rum barrels just like the things in his room. "Get the fuck out of my sight and clean the mess downstairs." Michael wasted no time after saying this as he launched himself into the air with Gaia. After seeing everything, he lost interest in decorating his room. How could he decorate his room while the rest of his ship smell and look like shit? "I take it back. I want to stay as far as I can from that ship," the whitehead said. It didn't bother to hide the disgust from showing in its voice. For a few moments, he just hovered in the air, looking at his ship below until Gaia broke his focus. "Are you gonna keep staring at the ship or show me your new powers?" As usual, this is the last filler chapter. Kinda a calm before the storm, chappie. After all, Hiran, the chapters will be filled with action, gore and bloodd. Chapter 263. Meanwhile, let's see what you can do now. Floating in the midair, she spoke in a challenging manner. She wanted to see the fiery eyes, and the smoke was just a display or have any powers hidden within. Before he used his powers again, he willed the system to show his current status. System version 3.0 host. Michael cultivation level. Core formation stage level 8 experience points. 5,000/4000000 badass points. 43,000 skills and spells. Wind Blast LVL3 responsive shield. LVL4 environment scanning. LVL3 ignition. LVL3 lightning dash. LVL3 energy devour. LVL1 death range. LVL3 eyes of darkness. Normal. Can sense the cultivation level of others. Eyes of darkness. Lucifer. Can sense the cultivation level of others. Can see through illusions. Cloud of darkness. Lucifer. Weak-willed enemies will lose their courage completely and surrender. Death range will be 50% more powerful. If activated in darkness, the host's cultivation level will be boosted 4 levels up regardless of the stage barrier. Wordless spellcaster Lucifer. In full Lucifer form, the host just has to think of the spell to cast it. Techniques: Swords of Destiny, 90% mastery Ring of Fire, 59% mastery Serpent Maga, 87% mastery Occupation. Core Disciple of Sunrise Sect, the Guardian of Sunrise Sect, Lord Lucifer of the Abyssal, the Dark Lord status. Healthy goals: control the world, rebuild the Order of Death. Utility function: Banker, LVL3 ratio, 1,000 gold coins, 10 badass points. Runic teleportation wealth, 13 million gold. Special trait: 5-star alchemist, 3-star inventor. Subordinates: Gaia, warrior, loyalty level 100%. Raylene, 5-star chef, loyalty level 98%. Arya, assassin, loyalty level 32%. Heinberg, warrior, loyalty level 18%. The Silent Reaper crew, pirates, loyalty level 83%. Base of operation: Sunrise Sect, the Abyssal, the Crypt, the Silent Reaper familiars, Nightmare, Forest Dragon. Whoa, how did my skill level go up? His heart almost skipped a beat when he saw his status. The first thing he saw was his skill levels. They were raised by 1 level without him paying badass points to upgrade. The host should thank the system for converting the excess first energy you absorbed from the Hydra egg and upgrading the skills. The system sounded extremely boastful, but underneath its boastful voice, he sensed a hint of joy. He wondered why though. The Eyes of Darkness and Cloud of Darkness has Lucifer in brackets dash. You can only use them in your Lucifer persona. Before even he could finish his thoughts, the system answered, interrupting him. And yes, the system counts the entire crew of the Silent Reaper as one entity. Yet again, the system took the liberty to answer the question he never asked but only thought. And no, until you name your Hydra, it won't show up under familiars. Are you trying to piss me off, system? Hee. The last thing he heard was the system chuckling before getting kicked out of the system menu. After getting kicked out of the system by the 4th time, he didn't feel as mad as he felt the first time. Besides, he was curious to use his powers once again. Michael closed his eyes for a second, activating the Cloud of Darkness and the Eyes of Darkness. Casting those spells felt easy as breathing. Soon, Gaia saw the black smoke enveloping him. Through the black smoke, she saw his eyes that were literally on fire, a dark crimson-red fire. Looking into his eyes, her body slightly trembled in fear. The fear was faint, yet it was there. She shook her head to break the fear in her heart. "Is that all you got?" She stretched her hands like she was exhausted waiting for him to show his powers. I don't want to hurt your snaky ass, that's all. Yeah, you wish, golden barrier. Gaia flicked her wrist as a faint golden light enveloped her. The golden light might be faint, but Michael could sense an immense amount of power thanks to his eyes of darkness. The spell she cast was very similar to his own spell, Responsive Shield, which could now stop the attacks of anyone under the core formation stage. Pretty awesome, huh? This is one of the many legendary spells I possess. Interesting. Michael knew this must be a legendary spell after sensing the power it radiated. This spell will grow stronger with my cultivation level. Currently, no one under the core strengthening stage could break the shield. Also, it will stun the attacker for a few seconds, giving me time to cleave his or her head off. Let me give it a shot. She saw the dark smoke and the fire in his eyes vanish into thin air. First, Michael wanted to test the strength of his powers in his normal form, before transforming into his Dark Lord form, Lucifer. Lightning dash, he closed the distance between them in a blink of an eye. Gaia was extremely surprised by his speed. Every time he uses the lightning dash, she could see his figure, but right at this moment, she only saw a blur in the place where he was just a second ago. Just like Gaia, the Hydra was also able to see only the after image. When he got close enough to Gaia, she punched the shield as strong as he could without using only his raw strength. Boom. The moment his fist connected with the shield, a loud booming sound reverberated through the open air. Why are they fighting? Captain. Sea gods bless me, whoa. The pirates who were watching them shouted when they saw Michael flinging away from Gaia like a kite in the storm. His body only came to a stop from 50 meters away from Gaia. His right hand hurt like hell as he looked down to see bones sticking out of his fist while blood oozed through the wounds. Despite the APD injecting healing potion into his bloodstream, he experienced excruciating pain in his right arm. Yet on his face, one could not see an expression of someone who's going through immense pain. On the contrary, his lips curled upwards. Are you alright? Of course he's not, you idiot. Look at his arm, the white head replied after Gaia shouted at Michael. The silver head showed a look of concern in its eyes. Unlike these two, the black head calmly watched Michael, noticing his arm recovering at an inhuman speed. Although she knew the backlash wouldn't do much harm to him, looking at his arm bleed hurt her heart. Soon, she heaved a sigh of relief inside after she noticed his arm getting back to its normal shape. I'm not impressed, she shouted again to rile him up. I haven't even started yet. Death range, the area around him turned darker. He could feel his strength doubling up, but he still didn't take his full Lucifer form. Lightning dash, yet again he activated his speed spell to get closer to Gaia. The pirates watching him from the ship only saw a dark trail. Before they could blink an eye, he reached Gaia. Did you notice that? His speed almost doubled, the white head whispered to the other two heads. Boom. Wasting no time, he took another shot at the golden barrier. This time when his fist met the barrier, a couple of tiny cracks appeared in the barrier where he punched. The backlash again sent Michael flinging away, but not as bad as before. He came to a stop after 20 meters. There was a deep shock in her eyes, noticing the cracks in the shield. This was not supposed to happen. No one except a core strengthening stage cultivator could damage the shield. Yet he managed to do just that. Why am I not surprised? He's my better half for a reason. The shock in her eyes gradually got replaced by pride and excitement. Plus, she was with him long enough to know that there's nothing impossible when it comes to him. Don't say you're impressed with that little show, Michael snickered. What if we can do all that magic-y shit? The fuck we can. I still have no clue how our captain and the Dark Queen using magic inside the void line. We are lucky to be his crew. Gibson said the captain is planning to take over the continent. Just imagine how much gold we earn doing nothing if the captain managed to do that. Go captain. Hey. The pirates began to cheer in excitement from the ship. Ignoring their cheers, he closed his eyes to take his full Lucifer form, aka the Dark Lord form. The black cloud enveloped him while his eyes began to emit crimson-red fire. His newfound skill let him cast spells without uttering a word. Thanks to that skill, he just had to think about death range as the area around him grew darker and darker. The area around him was almost pitch black. Even the sparkling moonlight couldn't shine inside his death range. To this moment, he had zero clues on how the Hydra egg was able to make him stronger, and unlock his Dark Lord powers. He knew eventually he would get all the answers from the system. Until then, he was glad to unleash the powers within him because in this world where the strong prey on the weak, growing stronger is all that mattered to him. Until now, he was like an ant compared to his enemies. That would change from this moment as from now on, his enemies would witness what the Dark Lord is capable of. Whoa! Gaia was taken aback by surprise when he suddenly appeared before her. She was waiting for him to cast the speed spell, but she heard no words escaping his mouth before he appeared in front of her. Back away, the Blackhead shouted at Gaia, sensing the upcoming danger. But it was too late as Michael's fist already connected with the golden barrier. Boom. This time, the barrier shattered into millions of golden dots. He stayed in the same spot except this time, the shock wave produced by the clash sent Gaia flinging away. Due to the force, she dropped the Hydra in her hand before flying away. Fuck. The Whitehead screamed, but Michael quickly caught the Hydra in his hand. Chapter 264. He caught the Hydra on his way to Gaia. She was throwing up blood because of the backlash of the clash between Michael's fist and the golden barrier. Fortunately, she had her APD filled with a 90% pure healing potion to heal her organs immediately. Otherwise, she would have suffered more than just coughing up blood. Impressed now, Michael wrapped his arm around her shoulder with a gentle smile on his face. He himself never expected his power to reach the core strengthening stage in his complete Lucifer form. Apparently, after activating the Cloud of Darkness and the Eyes of Darkness, he could fight head-to-head with a core strengthening stage warrior, and even defeat them. Even without taking his full Lucifer form, no one in the core formation stage could inflict a wound on him, let alone defeat him. By breaking Gaia's golden barrier, he grasped the extent of his current powers except for one thing. Gradually the fire in his eyes and the dark cloud around him disappeared. "When did you bastard reach the core strengthening stage?" she said, spitting out the remaining blood in her mouth. "I didn't. It's just my full Lucifer form temporarily boosting my power to core strengthening stage." After wiping off the blood on the corner of her lips, she gave him a friendly punch in the gut. "Give them to, you have enough op stuff as it is." She swooped the Hydra off of his hand. "Don't you think we should name them?" Michael asked. If they didn't name the Hydra, the system would keep bitch about it and never accept the Hydra as Michael's familiar. "I'll come up with perfect names for these little fellas." She playfully rubbed each of the Hydra's heads. Except for the silver head which nudged her hand with love, the white and the black head tried to chew her hand with their tiny little teeth. "Quit chewing my fingers, little fuckers," she chuckled. Just by looking at the way she was looking at the Hydra, he could tell that she has taken quite a liking to the Hydra. He could imagine these two fighting with Nightmare every single day after they return home. "Hey, look over there." As they were hovering in the air, the white said, raising its voice. Michael removed his hands from Gaia's shoulder before noticing 3 warships moving towards the direction of Ross' ship. From the distance, it seemed they were moving in a triangle formation. The ship moving in the front was slightly bigger than the 2 behind it. The moonlight illuminated their white flags with the symbol of 2 red swords in X shape. All 3 ships were galleons fully fitted with powerful cannons to do some nasty damage to any hostile ships. "Are those pirates?" Considering she knew very little about pirates in the southern continent, she didn't recognize ships by the flags. His crew would have if they were floating higher in the sky with them. The 3 ships were too far to get noticed by the normal human eyes. Plus, the night made it extremely harder for Michael's crew to spot the ships on the horizon. "We should follow them," Gaia said what he just thought in his mind. He wanted to see where the pirates were going in the middle of the night. Somehow he had a feeling that they weren't sightseeing. "Before we do that," he began to descend from the sky towards the Silent Reaper. He didn't want to step on the stinking ship until they cleaned the heck out of it, except now he had to warn them before following the 3 ships. Otherwise, there might be a chance of some other pirates ambushing the Silent Reaper while he's away. As much as he hated to admit it, he didn't think his crew was smart enough to survive an ambush even with a ship like the Silent Reaper. They obviously didn't understand its full potential or value. Otherwise, they would have at least kept her clean enough to be inhabited by normal human beings. "Captain, that was awesome. You too, Lady Captain." "Ow, what in the hell is that beast?" Shoo, they almost forgot the task in the hand in the excitement of seeing Michael unleash his powers. Why am I not seeing a clean ship? I bet something's wrong with my eyes. The pirates looked at each other while scratching the back of their heads like clueless chickens. Their silly faces reminded him of the crew of Captain Barbossa in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. He could never get mad enough to break pirate bones. Gibson. He enhanced his voice through arch energy so Gibson cleaning the below decks could hear him. After a few minutes he called Gibson. He ran to Michael's side with a couple of pirates. Michael was happy to see them drenched in sweat and covered in soapy bubbles. At least some of you've been doing the cleaning. The pirates down below, fortunately, didn't hear the noises produced by Michael and Gaia testing his powers. Gibson and the three behind him gawked at their fellow pirates with confused looks on their faces. They stared at the upper deck to see if they've done any works, but everything is just as they were. Follow me to the south side of the island, he ordered Gibson before taking off from the ship once again. Gibson wanted to ask why, but Michael was already far away from a shout reach. You heard the captain, man the handle. Michael and Gaia were keeping a safe distance from the three ships. All three ships had a pirate on the crow's nest as a lookout. Even though they were flying in the sky above them, there was a chance of the lookout to spot them. First, he wanted to see what the pirates are up to before he approached them. From the sky, he could see 30 heavy cannons, 2 mortars, a bunch of smaller cannons on swivel posts at various positions on the top deck on each ship. Plus, each of them had 35 crew members on the top deck, and he could guess there would be at least another 30 in the lower deck. In total, he might face almost 200 pirates as well as 90 heavy cannons, when or if they decide to pull a pretty stupid move and attack him. After following them for another 15 minutes, he saw a familiar shore, the shore he stepped on with Ross and his teammates. Ross' crew were still waiting for him to return without a clue about what happened to them. Suddenly he saw the lookouts standing on the crow's nest whistling. Soon, the lanterns lighting the ships were put out by the pirates as they went dark. They're planning an ambush, aren't they? The whitehead asked as Gaia nodded. She looked at Michael to see what they should do next. Let's go a little closer. Since they put out the lights, he could move in closer without getting detected by the pirates. Not that he was afraid of them, he was just being careful as he always was. Michael silently moved towards the ship leading the formation because if there was an important figure leading the ambush, 90% of the time, he or she would choose the bigger ship to be. When he was directly above the ship, he looked down to see a person wearing a huge maroon color hat manning the helm. My Gaia raised her brows looking at the person at the helm. If not for the deep cleavage, she wouldn't have guessed that the person is actually a woman. The pirate woman stood at nearly 5 feet 8 inches tall, and she would at least weigh 100 kilograms. She seemed like she could smother a man between her breasts to death. Stop! Michael halted, moving forward when the woman looked up at the sky. The pirate woman had a round face with a softly shaped jaw, a stubby nose, large ears, smooth cheeks, and big thick lips. Her azure eyes were large and she had thick eyebrows. Her dark gray hair, lightly streaked with shades of brown, was short, straight, styled in decorative cornrows. She wore excessive foundation to hide her blemishes, pinkish lipstick and pastel eyeliner. Even in the darkness, one could see the red coating on her lips. Other than the excessive makeup, she had a muscular neck, wide shoulders, big chubby arms, a long torso with very large breasts with a defined waist, wide hips, toned legs and average-sized feet. She just wore simple clothes, a white full-sleeve shirt rolled up to her elbow with a black vest. Apart from the piercing on her left eyebrow, a couple of gold chains decorated her neck. What made Michael interested in this woman was not the fact she might be the captain, but there were no weapons on her body or anywhere near her. Interesting, Michael mumbled. Although she had no weapons, his instincts told him this woman is a dangerous person. Because when she looked up, he saw her eyes. They were the eyes of a killer. She was practically masking the cruelty in her heart from showing up on her face with all the makeup. Captain Marina, that's the ship. Michael saw a man walking towards the woman, pointing at Ross' ship. Fun time. The woman slowly put a pipe in her mouth as the man quickly lit a match to lit her pipe. The light illuminated the man's face, revealing his identity to Michael. So he brought friends. Do you know him? Gaia asked. He was the pirate captain who lost more than half of his crew to me. Now it seems he has returned to avenge them. You know, it would be nice if you guys and gals leave a comment after reading the chapter. Your comments are what drives me to write more. Chapter 265. Humph. Some fucking pirate captain, you are to lose your crew to some snobby northern kid. They are practically naked after crossing the void line, Marina snickered, showing her disappointment in Packard Chameleon Crane. His defeat brought great shame to all the other pirate captains serving Pirate Lord Corey Witchdrachen, one of the 3 pirates' lords. The pirate lords controlled most of the southern sea. They practically ruled the ocean as well as the many islands in the sea. The 3 pirate lords had combined naval power higher than the southern continent kingdoms, hence, the Senate avoided crossing them even though the pirates kept plundering many merchant ships. Each pirate lord had several pirate captains serving them. The pirates who don't serve anyone, such as the Silent Reaper, were called the rogues. The pirate captain serving a pirate lord was free to plunder the rogues as they wished. If a pirate captain serving a pirate lord attacked another pirate who served another pirate lord, the pirate lords would investigate the attack until they found the wrongdoer. The wrongdoer would then get the punishment called the sinner's funeral. This was the only time one could see the pirate lords appear together in their ships. No one got the sinner's funeral in the last 100 years, which showed that the pirates could follow the rules unlike the southerners believe. One could even say that the pirates had a miniature version of democracy within them. Just like the sinner's funeral, no outsider has killed the pirate crew of a pirate lord in many decades until Michael massacred them mercilessly, which was the reason Marina appeared to avenge the crew under the orders of Pirate Lord Corey. In the hierarchy of pirate captains, Maria stood at the top. She was one of the most feared pirate captains of the Southern Sea. Captain Marina, he was not normal. How could a normal human being heal himself just like that? Packard had been blabbering, running his mouth about Michael's healing ability to everyone on the Witch Island. The matter even reached the ears of Corey herself. To see if Packard's been telling the truth, Corey ordered Marina to capture Michael alive. Let's see if he can heal like you said when I'm done with him. She crunched her knuckles with an evil smile on her face. Something sparkled in her eyes. Is this gonna be another disappointment? Marina asked herself. They were sailing towards Ross' ship without an idea of Michael following them from above. Remember our task at hand, maggots. We want the one called David alive. The rest of them could go to hell. Aye aye, Captain. The muffled cries of Marina's pirates reverberated the ship. The pirates quickly moved towards their posts to start the ambush. The 3 galleons began to circle Ross' ship. They were going to flank the ship in a triangle shape. Don't kill them. Michael glanced at the 2 ships in the near distance, telling Gaia to take care of them. You sure you don't want me to kill them? It's no fun, she pouted before flying towards the 2 ships. For a few moments, he just kept hovering over Marina's ship before slowly descending from the sky. Huh. What is that? The pirate standing on the crow's nest noticed a black figure moving towards them. He couldn't clearly identify the object due to the darkness. A ghost? The pirate's hands shivered as he slowly reached for the lantern hanging on the wooden pole. He wanted to light the lantern to see the object in light. But before he could light the lantern, the object got too close to the ship. Since the pirates firmly believe in superstitious things, the first thing that came to his mind is the ghost. Ghost! The pirate screamed until his throat hurt. Immediately Marina's gaze turned towards the crow's nest. The word ghost made the other pirates shudder in fear. Intruder! When Michael landed on the deck, they could see that they weren't dealing with a ghost but another human being. Are you looking for me? They only heard his voice. The night's darkness prevented them from clearly seeing his face. But that changed when Michael conjured his green alchemy flames in his hand. The green flames were bright enough to light up the entire ship. It's him! Packard pointed his finger at Michael, screaming frantically because of the sudden fear he just experienced. How? How did he? Fire. What kind of fire is that? Where did he come from? Many questions were running through their heads after seeing him suddenly appear on the deck before them. Marina left the helm while a pirate in her ship lit a lantern to signal the other 2 ships to stop. Well, I'll be honest. I have no idea how did you manage to come here, but I do say this, you have some balls. Actually, Marina saw no fear on his face. He leaned on the wooden pole leisurely while the green flames somehow hovered beside him, lighting the ship jade green. Even from standing 10 meters away from him, she could feel the heat being emitted by the orb of jade green fire. Marina slowly walked down the stairs adjusting her shirt. The pirates slowly reached for their cutlasses before unsheathing them. Michael still remained calm because no matter how many cutlasses or crews they have, he could defeat them with a couple of wind blasts. He was curious about what Marina could do. The pirates looked so afraid of her, and Michael wanted to know why they are for a woman without any weapons. I've been hearing some weird things about you, kid. It seems some of them might actually be true. Just like Marina saw no fear on Michael's face, he too saw no fear on her face, which surprised Michael. I bet that armor of yours will fetch us a nice amount of gold. After all, that's the least you can do for us for dragging me this far. Didn't he say I literally crushed his crew to death? A hint of fear emerged in Packard's eyes when Michael said that. He also noticed some pirates clenching their teeth in anger. He figured that there might be some relatives among the pirates he killed. You're not going to fight them, you're going to fight me, she crunched her knuckles. He creased his brows because she acted like she wanted him to fight him hand to hand. She removed her hat, revealing her dark gray hair. Stand down, maggots. This will be womano a mano this time. Michael was stunned by her words. As far as he could tell, she's either stupid or extremely confident in her fighting ability. Either way, he decided to agree with the woman's bizarre decision. The pirates immediately lowered their weapons as an evil grin appeared on Packard's face. What makes you think you can beat me? Michael asked, smiling at her. Boom. Instead of answering Michael, she just punched the sail pole beside her. Her fist obliterated the wooden pole into blisters as the entire ship trembled. The sailcloth flew into the water, leaving the ship with one less sail. Yet again Michael was stunned by this woman. It was impossible for a normal human being to possess such strength, unless she's not normal. At this moment, his curiosity reached a new peak. He focused his gaze on this woman, but as expected, there wasn't a single trace of arch energy in her body. System, scan her body. I want to know how she managed to destroy the pole with a single punch. 2,000 badass points required to scan her. Take it. It will take 15 minutes. So I have 15 minutes to play with her. The pirates moved away to make a space in the middle of the ship. He's dead. Here we go. It has been so long since we saw Captain beat the shit out of someone. I don't know, man. Everything about him rubs me in the wrong way. The pirates began to chit-chat while Michael walked towards the center. The woman snapped her fingers as the pirates lit all the lanterns they previously put out. Michael's alchemy fires vanished into thin air, surprising many pirates. What's going on there? I'm done with one ship. Get it done, I'm gonna play for a while. Who are you talking to? You'll know soon. Now shall we start? Michael cracked his neck waiting for Marina to make her first move. Standing on the opposite side, she moved one leg behind, raising her fist like a boxer. Whoosh! The very next moment, she dashed at him with extreme speed. He slightly moved his body, evading her fist. Although he evaded her punch, her speed stunned him. For a big woman, she was very agile and fast. With a swift twist, she turned her body before throwing a punch at him again. This time Michael didn't evade her punch but raised his palm. Boom. The moment Michael's palm and her big fist clashed, it produced a loud booming sound. The force of the clash sent both of them sliding backward. Michael's hand felt numb after stopping her punch. For a moment, his brain thought he was being hit by a raging bull. You're still in one piece, she sounded surprised. That's all you got. Michael wanted to see the full extent of her strength, so he riled her up. If Southerners could not cultivate, how was she this strong? That was the question running in his mind. She dashed forward again, but this time, she was rapidly throwing punches and kicks at him. If it was before he learned the new fighting technique from Gaia, and trained himself like hell, Marina might have landed some blows to him. Since that was not the case anymore, he evaded and dodged every single punch and kick of Marina. He felt like dancing with her while the other pirates stared at them in utter shock. As time went by, their fighting area expanded to the entire ship. H. She began to scream like an enraged beast as Michael felt her strength growing exponentially. Good, let it all out that you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.